In the Orichalcos arc, Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba unleash the power of the 3 legendary dragons to confront the evil Dartz and his followers, who draw their strength from the Orichalcos. I would like to welcome you all to every single Orichalcos arc duel analyzed in chronological order. Could character A have beat character B with some slightly different plays to their duels? Well, we won't know unless we jump into the duels. The duel begins and Yugi goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Beta the Magnet Warrior, Valkyrion the Magnet Warrior, Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts, the Shallow Grave, Soul Rope, and Dark Renewal. Yugi starts by summoning his Beta the Magnet Warrior into defense. He sets his Soul Rope trap face down and ends his turn. It's Gurimo's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Marauding Captain, Shadow Tamer, Machiura the Destructor, Obelisk the Tormentor, Hidden Soldiers, and the Seal of Orichalcos. Gurimo starts by summoning his Marauding Captain. Due to its effect, when it is summoned, Gurimo can now special summon a level 4 or lower monster in his hand. He summons his Shadow Tamer. Marauding Captain's second effect makes it so Yugi cannot target another warrior monster on his field for an attack, except this one. This is where I have to point out, honestly, it's a shame Gurimo didn't have a second copy of Marauding Captain, because if you didn't know, if you have 2 Marauding Captains on the field at the same time, both protect each other, and you can't attack each other because you're supposed to attack the other one, meaning you've just created an infinite defense. Your opponent cannot attack at all. It's really cool, but he doesn't have it, so oh well. Following this play, Gurimo activates his field spell, the Seal of Orichalcos. Now, while this card is on the field, a bunch of effects take place. No one can physically escape the duel. All monsters controlled by this card's user gain 500 attack. The user can now summon monsters into their spell and trap zones. Monsters in the spell and trap zones can't be attacked if there are monsters in the main monster zones. Monsters can be moved between the main monster zones and spell and trap zones. The Seal of Orichalcos cannot be destroyed by card effects. And of course, the loser of this duel will now lose their soul. The attack of all of Gurimo's monsters increases by 500. With this newfound strength, Marauding Captain attacks and destroys Yugi's Beta the Magnet Warrior. In response, Yugi activates his set Soul Rope. By paying 1000 life points, he can special summon a level 4 or lower monster from his hand or deck. He summons Gamma the Magnet Warrior from his deck into defense. Since Shadow Tamer is unable to attack over Gamma's 1800 defense, Gurimo moves into his main phase 2, sets his Hidden Soldier's trap face down, and ends his turn. And right off the bat, Gurimo has misplayed. He's got Machiura the Destructor in his hand. Had he summoned Marauding Captain, summoned Machiura the Destructor here instead, then after he destroyed the other monster, when Gamma was summoned to the field, Machiura could have easily dealt with it. He would never be able to get all 3 of the Magnet Warriors on the field at the same time now. He'd never be able to go into his Valkyrie and the Magnet Warrior. So that would actually cause a huge ripple effect for Yugi, and he probably would have lost the duel a lot sooner. However, I will defend Gurimo. He has Hidden Soldiers. That card can only summon a dark monster. Machiura is the only thing it can summon, so I understand why he didn't want to bring it out so early. However, now knowing what happens, in hindsight, yes, it was a misplay. It's back to Yugi, and he draws Alpha the Magnet Warrior. He summons it. Now, since Yugi summoned a monster, Gurimo can activate his trap, Hidden Soldiers. This lets him special summon a level 4 or lower dark monster in his hand. He summons Machiura the Destructor. Yugi activates his Shallow Grave spell, which lets both himself and Gurimo summon a monster in their graves into defense. Yugi summons his Beta the Magnet Warrior back to the field, while Gurimo gets nothing since his graveyard is empty. Now, with all 3 Magnet Warriors on the field, Yugi tributes Alpha, Beta, and Gamma to special summon Valkyrion the Magnet Warrior from his hand. Yugi moves into his battle phase and orders Valkyrion to attack Marauding Captain, since it is the only monster that can be attacked. It is destroyed. Yugi ends his turn. It's Gurimo's turn, and he draws Monster Reborn. He activates it to bring back Marauding Captain. Now, with 3 monsters on his side of the field, he tributes all 3 to summon Yugi's Egyptian god card, Obelisk the Tormentor. Now, normally non-chosen people can't use Egyptian god cards. However, the Seal of Orichalcos allows Gurimo to control it to a certain degree. It causes him a lot of strain, but he is able to control it. And this is just a random question. I thought there was a rule that said that people couldn't steal Egyptian gods from each other. They had to be won in a duel in order to take them. That's why like Marek never just like took them by force or something. But I feel like I might be making that up. Let me know if that's an actual legit rule or I'm just crazy in the brain. Let me know. Gurimo orders Obelisk to attack and destroy Valkyrion the Magna Warrior. Gurimo ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Graceful Charity. He activates it. Now he can draw 3 cards and then discard 2 cards. He draws and gets Dark Magician, Collected Power, and Monster Reborn. He discards Dark Magician and Collected Power. Yugi summons his Gazelle into defense and then sets his Dark Renewal face down. It's Gurimo's turn, and he draws Bronze Knights. He sets it face down immediately and then moves into his battle phase and orders Obelisk to attack and destroy Gazelle. With no more plays, Gurimo ends his turn. Now, I want to defend Yugi here because it looks like all Gurimo needs to do is just draw like a 1300 attack point monster, attack, destroy Gazelle, then attack with Obelisk directly to win the duel. However, Yugi is actually quite well defended here. With Dark Renewal set, he can just tribute the monster Gurimo summons along with his Gazelle to summon Dark Magician into defense, meaning Yugi would have survived another turn. The same goes for if Gurimo somehow managed to get 2 monsters out on the field together in order to use Obelisk's effect. Yugi could just use Dark Renewal to remove one of the monsters, so Yugi, well, he was pretty well set up here. It's back to Yugi, and he draws Brave Attack. With all the pieces in place, Yugi starts his god-killing play. He activates Monster Reborn to bring back Valkyrion the Magna Warrior. He activates Valkyrion's effect, which lets it tribute itself to summon its 3 materials to the field. Finally, Yugi activates Brave Attack. This card combines all of Yugi's attack position monsters' attack points into one singular attack. However, after the battle, all of those monsters are destroyed. Now in the show, this play is represented by all 3 Magnet Warriors attacking individually, and they start chipping away at Obelisk, and the final one is what destroys them. What's actually happening is you could just imagine these 3 monsters have become one monster and all their attack points have all been combined. So that's how it would really look, but this is just anime to make it look cool. So now with a 4,600 attack point Alpha Beta Gamma monster, it attacks and destroys Obelisk the Tormentor. As the battle phase comes to an end, the Magnet Warriors are destroyed by the detrimental effect of Brave Attack. Yugi ends his turn here. It's Gurimo's turn, and he draws Card of Sanctity. He activates it. Now both players draw until they have 6 cards in their hands. Since both Yugi and Gurimo's hands are completely empty, they both draw 6 new cards. Yugi draws and gets Watapon, Dark Magician Girl, Queen's Knight, Kuribo, Magical Academy, and a mysterious spell card. Since Watapon was added to Yugi's hand via an effect, it special summons itself to the field. Gurimo draws and gets Warrior Digrapher, the Warrior Returning Alive, Shield Wall, and 3 mysterious cards. Gurimo summons his Warrior Digrapher. Yugi, in response, activates his set Dark Renewal. Since the opponent summoned a monster, he can tribute it and 1 card he controls in order to special summon a spellcaster from his grave or deck. He tributes Grepher and Watapon to summon Dark Magician from his grave. Gurimo sets his quick play spell Shield Wall face down and ends his turn. Fun fact, if Yugi didn't have that Dark Renewal face down, he would have lost here. Gurimo could have won with his set Bronze Knight's quick play. Discard 1 card, summon a Bronze Knight, attack Watapon with it, then attack the game with Grepher. But, oh well. It's back to Yugi, and he draws Dust Tornado. Yugi moves straight into his battle phase and uses Dark Magician to attack Gurimo directly, attempting to go for game. However, Gurimo activates his Shield Wall. This lets him summon 4 shield tokens into defense. He summons them into his main monster zones. A replay occurs since the number of monsters on the field has changed, and Yugi attacks and destroys one of them. Following this, Gurimo activates his second quick play, Bronze Knights. Now, for each card he discards, he can summon a Bronze Knight token. He discards the 3 mysterious cards in his hand to summon 3 tokens into his spell and trap zones. Yugi ends his turn by setting Dust Tornado and Magical Academy face down and summoning Queen's Knight into defense. Keep in mind with the shield tokens in the main monster zone and the bronze tokens in the back row, the bronze tokens can't be attacked unless the monsters in the front row are destroyed, so they're protected, so he can go on the offensive without having to worry about them being attacked and losing life points. Fun fact. And right before we get to the penultimate turn of the duel, don't forget to subscribe because I have a 5-hour Orichalcos arc duel analysis mega mix coming out featuring every single duel in the entire season. And if you can't wait to watch it, then subscribe. It's Gurimo's turn and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets allied forces. Yugi immediately activates his Dust Tornado, attempting to destroy the Seal of Orichalcos. A bit premature there, Yugi. Maybe you want to wait till like the battle phase or like at least the end of the main phase. See what's going to happen here. Maybe he summons another monster in the spell and trap zone. So when you destroy the field spell, at least you get rid of more things in the back row. Maybe he's going to use a continuous spell or something that would be even better to get rid of because, you know, maybe just wait a minute. But no, okay, just attempt to do it and it doesn't really matter because it doesn't work, since it is revealed that the seal is unable to be destroyed by card effects. Gurimo then activates his spell, the Warrior Returning Alive, which lets him add a warrior in his grave back to his hand. He adds back Warrior de Greffa since it is the strongest warrior in his grave. He summons it to the field. Now this part is really important because it's going to become important so much later. Where does he summon this de Greffa? Does he summon it into the main monster zone so that the back row is now protected by 3 shield tokens and this what's going to be a 3000 attack point monster? Or does he summon it into the back row so it too is protected by the shield tokens, but if the shield tokens are removed, then the other monsters in the back row are susceptible to being attacked? Which, if you're going to play a card like Allied Forces, which boosts this monster's attack for every warrior on the field, you'd probably want to protect the warriors as much as possible. So let's see what he does. Well, he summons it into the back row, which I'm just going to let you all know now, it's just cost him the duel. Gurimo activates his continuous spell, the Allied Forces. This card now increases the attack of all warrior type monsters on the field by 200 for each warrior and spellcaster monster on Gurimo's side of the field. While the shield tokens are rock type monsters, the bronze knights are all warriors. So with 4 warriors on his field altogether, they gain 800 attack points each. Gurimo moves into his battle phase, and now with a 3000 attack, de Greffa destroys Dark Magician. Gurimo then uses one of the Bronze Knights to attack Queen's Knight. However, Yugi activates his set, Magical Academy. This card lets Yugi discard 2 cards from his hand to special summon a spellcaster type monster in his hand. But if it's a level 5 or higher, he must still tribute monsters for its summon. As well, the monster summoned has its level increased by 2 and its attack increased by 500. Also, any spells or traps that target this monster are negated until the end of the turn. So, Yugi discards his Kuribo and the mysterious spell card, tributes Queen's Knight to summon Dark Magician Girl. Dark Magician Girl becomes a level 7 monster with an extra 500 attack, and as well, its attack is increased even further by 300 thanks to her effect since there is a Dark Magician in the grave. Since the Bronze Knight tokens are too weak to attack over Dark Magician Girl, Gurimo ends his turn here. Now, Yugi is in a bit of a pickle here. He has to draw something on his next turn or else he's losing on Gurimo's next turn, since Dark Magician Girl just gets ran over by Greffa and all the knights just obliterate Yugi's life points. Will Yugi be able to do the top deck of the century? Yes, he draws the exact card he was looking for right here. It's Yugi's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Diffusion Wave Motion. He activates it immediately. By paying 1000 life points, he can target 1 level 7 or higher spellcaster monster he controls. It can attack all monsters the opponent controls. Since Magical Academy made Dark Magician Girl a level 7, she is a viable target. And so, Dark Magician Girl attacks all 3 of the shield tokens in the main monster zones. All 3 are destroyed. Now, with no monsters in the front row, the attackers in the back line are fine to be attacked. Dark Magician Girl destroys all the bronze tokens. As she does, each time she destroys one, the next one becomes weaker and weaker, until she gets to Warrior de Greffa, who is weakened to the point of it being able to be attacked and destroyed as well. Fun fact, the duel was actually over after the second bronze token was destroyed. Yugi didn't have to attack those last 2, but technically he could attack everything. So yeah, that last 2 attacks was overkill by Yugi. Yugi wins the duel. The duel begins and a disguised Alister goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Toon Alligator, Toon Masked Sorcerer, Toon Rollback, Toon Mask, and 2 mysterious cards. These mysterious cards, they never get used throughout the entire duel and they get swapped out later when Alister just swaps his deck. So they don't really matter too much. I assume they weren't very good. Whatever Toon cards you can think of that aren't very good. Maybe that parrot thing and I don't know, something else. Still, can't be used. Alister summons Toon Alligator into defense. He sets his Toon Mask Trap face down and then ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Spear Dragon, Pitch Dark Dragon, Cloning, Shrink, Charm of Lamentation, and Negate Attack. Kaiba summons his Spear Dragon into attack and then immediately enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Toon Alligator. Due to Spear Dragon's effect, it deals piercing battle damage. Alister takes the first damage of the duel. After the battle, due to the second effect of Spear Dragon, once it attacks, it switches itself into defense. Kaiba ends his turn by setting Cloning and Negate Attack face down. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Toon Table of Contents. He activates it. Thanks to this card, he can add any Toon card in his deck straight to his hand. He adds the continuous spell, Toon World. He activates it by paying 1000 life points. Now, while this card doesn't have any effects on its own, it does enable the unique abilities of Toon monsters. Which means that now Toon monsters can attack the opponent directly, as long as they don't have a Toon monster on their side of the field, as well as cartoon monsters. They are incapable of being destroyed by conventional battle, and as well, the owner doesn't take any battle damage from battles involving them, unless it is with a Toon monster. So, with all that in mind, Alister summons his Toon Masked Sorcerer. Kaiba in response activates his Cloning Trap to summon a clone token of a monster that was just summoned. Now, since there is a Toon monster on Kaiba's side of the field, he explains that Toon Masked Sorcerer is unable to attack him directly. Alister, not wanting to crash the two Toons together and lose his only monster, ends his turn. I do have to say, while there was no misplays this turn, it's a little bit weird. We are led to believe that Alister's like, oh man, I was going to attack Kaiba directly, and with my Toon Masked Sorcerer, I was going to draw a card thanks to its ability, but he got me, so I'm just going to end my turn. I'm frustrated by this. Except he couldn't attack this turn. Most Toon monsters have the summoning sickness that when they are summoned, they can't attack on the turn they're summoned. So I thought this was a bit weird. It doesn't actually matter at the end of the day because Kaiba would have done what he did regardless. He wants another monster on his side of the field so he can contribute it on his next turn. So there's no misplays, it's not an error or anything. Things wouldn't have gone any different regardless, but I just thought it was a weird little mistake. It's back to Kaiba, and he draws Blue Eyes White Dragon. He tributes the clone Toon Masked Sorcerer along with his Spear Dragon to summon it. Alister in response activates his set trap, Toon Mask. Now, by tributing one Toon monster he controls when the opponent summons a monster, he can special summon another Toon monster from his deck that shares the same name as the summoned monster. Since Kaiba summoned Blue Eyes White Dragon, Alister tributes Toon Masked Sorcerer to summon Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. Despite knowing he can't defeat Blue Eyes Toon Dragon in battle, Kaiba activates Shrink to halve its attack. He then activates his continuous spell, Charm of Lamentation. Now, while this card remains on the field, Kaiba can draw whenever he fails to destroy a monster in battle. Kaiba orders Blue Eyes to attack Toon Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes Toon Dragon is not destroyed and no damage is dealt, but Charm of Lamentation lets Kaiba draw a card. He gets Visago the Destroyer. Kaiba ends his turn, and as he does, Blue Eyes Toon Dragon's attack returns to normal. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Toon Dark Magician Girl. He enters his battle phase and pays 500 life points so that Blue Eyes Toon Dragon can declare an attack. He chooses to attack directly. However, Kaiba activates Negate Attack. This stops the attack of Blue Eyes Toon Dragon and then immediately ends the battle phase. Now, in the main phase 2, Alister activates his Toon Rollback. This card can only be used when a Toon monster's attack is negated by a trap card. Alister can now conduct a second battle phase. Now this next bit is really weird to me. Kaiba says no, Blue Eyes Toon Dragon already attacked. Just because you have a second battle phase doesn't mean that a monster that already attacked gets to attack again, which I don't know, I found that really weird. I feel like there must be an example of someone getting a second battle phase in one of the previous seasons and stuff. I mean, obviously we've had cards that like skip a turn, so it's like a completely new battle phase. But has there never been a moment earlier in the series where a monster has been able to attack twice for some reason? I don't know, I just found that a weird thing because that's not how like the real world card game works, which obviously the anime is different. So I guess you could class that as another weird ruling from the anime. Monsters that declared an attack, even if you get a second battle phase in the same turn, can't attack again. Regardless of this restriction, Alister says, well then he'll summon another monster. And so he tributes Blue Eyes Toon Dragon to special summon Toon Dark Magician Girl. Since his Toon monster has no attack summoning sickness, Alister re-enters his battle phase and attacks Kaiba directly. Alister ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Crush Card Virus. He immediately enters his battle phase and attacks Toon Dark Magician Girl with Blue Eyes. No damage or destruction occurs, but Kaiba gets to draw a card thanks to Charm of Lamentation. He gets a Wing Beat of a Giant Dragon. Kaiba moves straight into his main phase 2, since this was the card he was looking for. He activates it. Now, by returning a level 5 or higher Dragon-type monster to his hand, he can destroy all spells and traps on the field. Blue Eyes is bounced back to Kaiba's hand. Toon World and Charm of Lamentation are destroyed. Since Toon World was removed from the field, all Toon monsters on the field destroy themselves. Kaiba summons his Visago the Destroyer into defense, and then ends his turn. It's at this point that Alister abandons the Pegasus persona, since Kaiba's figured him out. He says Pegasus is silly, but he is no fool. He wouldn't make the same plays against Kaiba again. So, because of this, Alister swaps out his Pegasus deck for his own deck. He then redraws his hand of 2 by drawing 2 cards from the top of his new deck. He then draws to start his turn. His new hand consists of the Seal of Orichalcos, Gorlag, and Royal Decree, which I just wanna say, you really can't do that. You can't just mid-duel be like, oh, okay, you've caught me. This deck, yeah, I was just using it, pretending to be Pegasus. I'm not gonna use this anymore. This completely dead hand that I have, yeah, I'll get rid of that. Here's my other deck, let me shuffle that. Oh, look, a brand new hand. This is a much better hand now, and let's continue the duel here. No! Imagine if I was like dueling with my Ancient Gear deck and had 3 Ancient Gear Golems in my hand and they're just completely dead. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to swap this deck out for my Snake Eyes deck. Oh, look, 3 1-card starters. Perfect. Let's carry on the duel. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. So I'm going to have to say Alister as the biggest load of shenanigans I've ever seen. Anyone else that would do this, they would just mix the Pegasus deck with their own deck, and then as soon as you get found out, you just start using your real deck and just like abandon the Pegasus cards. That's what most people do in the Yu-Gi-Oh series, but yeah, regardless. Alister activates the Seal of Orichalcos. Now, while this card remains on the field, all of Alister's monsters gain 500 attack. He can summon monsters in his spell and trap zones, and those monsters can't be attacked as long as there is a monster in the main monster zones in front of them. Keep in mind, Alister will not utilize the spell and trap you can summon your monsters and protect them in the back row ability. Ever. Not in this duel, not in the next duel. It would have been beneficial for him to use this, more so in the next duel, but yeah, he really lacks out on this. I'm going to give him a misplay for this because it's going to cost him eventually. And I feel like I'm forgetting one ability of the Seal of Orichalcos. Oh yes, of course. The loser of this duel will now lose their soul. And so, Alister summons his Gorlag. Thanks to its effect, it gains 500 attack for every fire monster he controls. Since Gorlag itself is fire, it gains 500 attack. Alister uses Gorlag to attack and destroy Kaiba's Visago. As the battle phase comes to an end, the second effect of Gorlag activates, which summons monsters it destroys to Alister's side of the field as a fire monster with their effects negated. With a second fire on the field, Gorlag's attack increases. Alister ends his turn by setting Royal Decree face down. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Blue Eyes White Dragon. He summons his Pitch Dark Dragon into defense and then sets Crush Card Virus. The plan is to use Crush Card with Pitch Black Dragon, wipe Alister's field, and prevent him from drawing into any decent monsters. However, Alister is having none of this, and activates his continuous trap, Royal Decree. Due to this card's effect, all other traps have their effects negated. With Kaiba's combo thwarted, he reluctantly ends his turn. In fact, now I think about it, Kaiba could have done his Pitch Black Dragon and set Crush Card Virus play on his last turn. Have those ready and set up. He wouldn't have had any other defense, of course. But now when Alister gets his Gulag out, activates his Seal of Orichalcos, sets his Royal Decree face down, we can just use Crush Card Virus in response, destroy Gulag, and then we can just start attacking into him directly and winning the duel. So now that I think about that, yeah, Kaiba made a huge misplay. If he would have set this up last turn, he could now this turn have summoned his Visago and attacked directly. So, oh dear, Kaiba, yeah, you could have won. You should have set this up last turn. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Atonix Flame. He enters his battle phase and uses Gulag to attack and destroy Pitch Dark Dragon. Visago then attacks Kaiba directly. As the battle phase comes to an end, Pitch Dark Dragon is summoned to Alister's field as a fire monster. Gulag's attack increases even more. Alister ends his turn. Whoa, Alister, what are you doing? Why don't you just attack the other way round? Why did you do that? Visago instead attack and destroy Pitch Dark Dragon, since he's got like no defense points. Gulag attack Kaiba directly, and that's game. There is literally nothing stopping this play. The only logical reason is because by destroying that monster with Gulag, he gets to summon it back to his field at the end of the battle phase. But you could have won the duel. This is probably one of the biggest misplays I have seen, where the plot has literally just cost Alister the duel. He literally has game on the board, but he's just chose not to do it. That is insane. Alister, huge misplay. That is disgusting. I'm so embarrassed. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Card of Demise. He activates it to draw until he has 5 cards in his hand. With 2 cards already in his hand, the 2 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon, he draws 3 new cards. He gets Paladin of White Dragon Ritual, and Monster Reborn. Kaiba activates the Ritual spell, White Dragon Ritual. He tributes Blue Eyes White Dragon to pay the ritual cost to summon Paladin of White Dragon. Following this, Kaiba activates Monster Reborn to bring back Blue Eyes White Dragon in his grave. He then enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Pitch Dark Dragon with Paladin of White Dragon. With 1 less fire monster on the field, Gulag's attack is reduced. Kaiba now attacks and destroys it with Blue Eyes. Due to Gulag being removed from the field, all monsters it summoned are also sent to the grave. Kaiba moves into his main phase 2 and activates Paladin of White Dragon's effect. By tributing itself, it can summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from his hand or deck. However, that monster can't attack the turn it's summoned. A Blue Eyes White Dragon is summoned from Kaiba's deck. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Alister's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets Contagion of Madness and Fire Whip. Alister activates Atonix Flame by foregoing his battle phase. This turn, he can destroy all monsters the opponent controls that aren't fire or fiend types. Then he can summon Gulag from his graveyard. The 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons are destroyed and Gulag returns to his field. But that's not all. Alister follows up this play by activating Fire Whip. This card special summons all monsters destroyed this turn to his side of the field. Those monsters become fire attributed. The 2 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon just destroyed return to Alister's side of the field. Since there are now 2 more fires, Gulag's attack rises. Alister sets his Contagion of Madness face down and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and the final turn of the duel. With no monsters, a set Crush Card Virus that can't be activated, and a Blue Eyes White Dragon in his hand that he can't summon, if Kaiba draws nothing decent here, he will lose the duel. Feeling how much of a pickle he is in, the legendary dragon Critias comes to Kaiba in a vision. Kaiba unlocks its power by speaking its name. Kaiba draws and gets the Fang of Critias. He activates its effect, which allows it to fuse with a trap on the field. He fuses it with Crush Card Virus to make Doom Virus Dragon. When this monster hits the field, its effect activates, which causes all monsters Alister controls with 1500 or more attack to be destroyed. Alister's entire field is decimated. Wide open, Kaiba orders Doom Virus Dragon to attack Alister directly, attempting to go for game. Over Alister plays his set Contagion of Madness. Due to this card's effect, half the damage Kaiba inflicts to Alister now will also be dealt to Kaiba. Alister takes 1900 direct damage, reducing his life points to 0. Kaiba simultaneously takes 950 damage, reducing his life points to 0 too. The duel ends in a draw. As such, no one's soul is taken. We join the duel on Pegasus's penultimate turn of the duel. He has 100 life points left. 1000 Eyes Restrict on the field, equipped with Mai's Harpy's Pet Dragon. He ends his turn here. It's Mai's turn, and the final turn of the duel. She draws and gets Harpy Lady Phoenix formation. Mai, who hasn't taken any damage this entire duel and is unable to attack due to 1000 Eyes Restrict's effect, activates Harpy Lady Phoenix formation. Now, due to this card's effect, she can destroy opponent's cards equal to the number of Harpy Ladies she has on the field. With 6 Harpy Ladies, thanks to the Seal of Orichalcos allowing her to summon into her spell and trap zones, she can destroy up to 6 cards. Due to Phoenix Formation's second effect, damage is now dealt to Pegasus equal to the total attack of the destroyed monsters that they had when they were destroyed. Pegasus's life points drop to 0. And unfortunately, with no more information on the duel and jumping in so late in the duel, no other alternative plays are available. Case and shut really, and let's be honest, it did seem pretty one-sided. Mai wins the duel. The duel begins and Mai goes first. She draws and her opening hand consists of Harpy Lady, the Seal of Orichalcos, Harpy's Feather Storm, Harpy Lady Sparrow Formation, Nightmare Tri-Mirror, and a mysterious card. This card will stay in Mai's hand for, believe it or not, 11 turns without being used. Its ultimate fate is to be discarded as a cost for something. So what is this card? It must be really useless. If I had to speculate what it is, I would probably say it's one of the Amazoness cards, because Mai does play these two archetypes together in one deck, and it's confirmed that she plays one of the cards at least, so I'm going to say it's Amazoness Spellcaster. It can't be used unless she has an Amazoness on the field. She never does this duel, so Amazoness Spellcaster. Why not? The first thing Mai does in the duel is activate her field spell, the Seal of Orichalcos. Now, both duelists are locked into the duel. All of Mai's monsters gain 500 extra attack, they become dark type, Mai's monsters can be summoned to the spell and trap zones, and can't be attacked there unless there are no monsters in her main monster zones. Also, Mai's monsters in the main monster zone can be moved into the spell and trap zone, and also vice versa during her main phases. Oh, and of course, whoever loses this duel will now lose their soul. It never gets old, I love saying that. Mai summons her Harpy Lady to the field and ends her turn. Could Mai have set her 2 traps face down here? Yes, she could have. Would it have made a difference? No, not really. These 2 cards have quite specific criteria to be activated, so it's not really a big deal to put them on the field. Plus, she might be afraid of an opponent having back row destruction or something, so yeah, it's fine. This is a fine first turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Alligator's Sword, Rocket Warrior, Time Wizard, Monster Reborn, Drop Off, and Compensation Mediation. Joey, adamant on not fighting Mai as he doesn't want her to have her soul ripped out, simply summons his Alligator Sword into defense and ends his turn. So this is important to bring up now. Joey really doesn't want to duel Mai. He's going to play really defensively and really passively for quite a lot of this duel. It's only until Yugi gives him a stern talking to. Keep that in mind for these next couple of turns. You're going to see a very passive Joey, okay? Okay. It's Mai's turn, and she draws a second copy of Harpy Lady. She summons it to the field. With her 2 Harpy Ladies, she enters her battle phase and attacks and destroys Joey's Alligator Sword, and then attacks Joey directly. Joey takes the first damage of the duel. Mai sets Nightmare Tri-Mirror face down and ends her turn. It's back to Joey, and he draws Scapegoat. Still refusing to fight, he summons his Rocket Warrior into defense and then sets Scapegoat face down and ends his turn. It's back to Mai, and she draws Trap Jammer. Mai immediately enters her battle phase and uses one of the Harpy Ladies to attack and destroy Rocket Warrior. She then attempts to attack Joey directly. However, Joey activates Scapegoat to summon 4 sheep tokens to his side of the field into defense. Unfortunately for Joey, by doing this, he has met the criteria for Mai's face down trap, Nightmare Tri-Mirror. Due to its effect, since Joey special summoned a monster, Tri-Mirror special summons a number of identical copy tokens of a monster she controls equal to the amount of monsters the opponent has in the field. However, these tokens are unable to attack the turn they are summoned. Mai chooses her Harpy Lady to be copied, And since Joey controls 4 monsters, Mai summons 4 copy tokens of Harpy Lady into her spell and trap zones. A replay occurs and the original Harpy Lady that declared the attack now attacks and destroys one of the sheep tokens. Mai ends her turn by setting Harpy Lady Sparrow formation face down. Now, fun fact, it would have been in Mai's best interest here to set that Trap Jammer face down right here. Why? Well, she probably would have won on her following turn. The only reason I assume she doesn't set this card is because she only has 1 spell and trap zone free, due to the 4 Harpy Ladies occupying those zones. So I imagine that she thinks, oh, if I draw a decent spell card that I want to activate, well, I want to have the space to be able to play them. But that doesn't make no sense, because you can just move the Harpy Lady in the spell and trap zone into the monster zone to make space for yourself to play your cards. So she should have set Trap Jammer face down, is the moral of the story. It's a big misplay. If she had set the Trap Jammer face down, she would have been able to stop Joey's compensation mediation on the next turn, which would have been a chain effect, and she would just absolutely dominated Joey. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Panther Warrior. He summons it to the field. In order to attack with Panther Warrior, he must first tribute a monster. He tributes one of the sheep tokens, and orders Panther Warrior to attack one of Mai's Harpy Ladies in the main monster zones. Mai, however, intercepts the attack by activating her Harpy Lady Sparrow formation. This card can only be activated while Mai controls 2 or more Harpy Ladies. Now she takes no battle damage from an opponent's attack, and as a result, the monster attacked isn't destroyed in the battle. It's kind of like Waboku, if you know that card anyway, but the result of this is Harpy Lady isn't destroyed, and no damage is dealt. With no further plays, Joey ends his turn. It's Mai's turn, and she draws Harpy Lady Phoenix formation. Since Panther Warrior has more attack than all of her Harpy Ladies, she activates it. Now, due to this card's effect, she can destroy monsters the opponent controls up to the number of Harpy Ladies she controls. Since she controls 6 Harpy Ladies, Mai easily wipes Joey's entire field, destroying Panther Warrior and 2 of the remaining sheep tokens. Following the destruction, the second effect of Phoenix Formation activates. The opponent now takes damage equal to the combined attack of the destroyed monsters. Luckily for Joey, Mai is unable to attack the turn she uses this effect, and so she ends her turn. I hate to be that guy, but Mai, I think if you had waited a little bit, probably would have won on your next turn. I know it's tempting. Your opponent has the bigger monster on the field, and you know on the next turn you're going to lose one of your monsters, you're going to take some damage. It's going to suck, I know, but sometimes you just need to hang on a minute. You have a card in your hand that could instantly win you this duel. All you need to do is just wait a minute. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Picture this. Let's go back to the start of Mai's turn. Joey only has 2,200 life points left, right? Next turn, spoilers, he's going to get out the Fiend Mega Cyber, which coincidentally has 2,200 attack points. 2,200 life points, 2,200 attack points. Interesting. Mai's turn should have gone like this. Enter her battle phase and attack the 2 sheep tokens, and then end her turn. Now we move over to Joey's turn. Since we got rid of those 2 sheep tokens, the Fiend Mega Cyber that Joey's just drew, well, he's allowed to special summon to the field, and why wouldn't he? We let him attack 2 of our Harpy Ladies. We take a little bit of damage, but that's okay. We've still got like 4 Harpy Ladies remaining. Now it's back to Mai's turn. She draws, but it doesn't even matter. We just activate that Phoenix formation, and we've won the duel. The only way this could have gone pear-shaped is if Joey would have summoned his Time Wizard and attempted to use its effect. But I don't think that would have happened, because throughout this entire duel, Joey is not going to use that Time Wizard effect. Even when he's literally staring at a bunch of monsters and he has nothing on his field, he's still not going to resort to that Time Wizard. He just doesn't seem to want to use it in this duel, so I don't think he would have used it last turn if he get 2 big monsters out. So I'm going to call it now. Yes, Mai, you should have won this duel. Never mind. Anyway, getting back to the duel. It is at this point that Joey attempts to surrender. He does this in order to save Mai. However, before he does, Yugi scolds him, saying you should never surrender against someone who is giving their all. And at the end of the day, though this act might save Mai's life, it won't truly be saving her. And so, with newfound resolve, Joey draws and gets the Fiend Mega Cyber. Since Mai has 2 more monsters than him, he is able to special summon it straight to the field. Joey enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys one of the main monster zone Harpy Ladies. Joey ends his turn by setting Compensation Mediation face down. I touched on this on the last turn, but yes, Joey could have summoned his Time Wizard here. Attempted Time Wizard's effect is 50-50. He either wipes all of Mai's field and then attacks directly with both of his monsters, or he, you know, wipes his own field and probably would instantly lose the duel. Then again, if he did use the Time Wizard effect and it was successful, but he has Time Wizard still on the field at the end of the turn, and if Mai gets a monster on her turn, yeah, she could attack over Time Wizard, so it's a very, very big gamble. It would have worked. Fun fact, he would have won because the next card Mai's going to draw is Harpy's Pet Dragon. She can't summon Harpy's Pet Dragon, and also a lot of her cards rely on Harpy's being on the field, so she couldn't use them. I'll be honest, I've seen him gamble and win with worse odds, so I don't know, I'll let you be all the judge. Should he have done it? It's Mai's turn, and she draws Harpy's Pet Dragon. She tributes 2 of her Harpy copy tokens to summon Harpy's Pet Dragon into the main monster zones. Harpy's Pet Dragon's effect activates, increasing its attack by 300 for each Harpy lady on the field. Since there are 3, it gains 900 attack. Mai enters her battle phase and attacks. However, Joey activates his set Compensation Mediation. Now, Mai must choose 2 cards in her graveyard, and then shuffle Compensation Mediation into the chosen cards. Joey will then pick one of those cards, and if the picked card is Compensation, then the battle phase immediately ends. However, as a plus, she gets to keep those 2 cards she just pulled out of her graveyard and put them back on the top of her deck in a random order. It's very important that it's random order, because if she got to pick the order, she probably could have won, but it's random. It's random. Mai chooses from her grave Harpy Lady Phoenix Formation and Harpy Lady Sparrow Formation. Joey gives Mai his trap to shuffle in among them. Joey chooses a card, and the play is revealed to be successful. Mai's battle phase comes to an end. Mai returns the trap back to Joey in the cleanest throw I've ever seen, and then Mai adds the 2 other cards to the top of her deck at random. They get returned in the order with Sparrow Formation on the top and the Phoenix one on the bottom. Fun fact, if it was the other way around, Mai could have won on her next turn, so unlucky. I say unlucky, but this could have all been avoided as well if she would have set that trap jammer face down, but move past it. Mai ends her turn by moving her main monster zone Harpy Lady back into her spell and trap zones. Finally, she sets Trap Jammer and Harpy's Featherstorm face down. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Fiber Jar. Wait, Joey has Fiber Jar in his deck? Do you know how insane that card is? If you don't know what Fiber Jar is, it's like a flip monster, and then when it's flipped up, it returns every single card on the field, in the graveyard, and in the hand back into the deck. Shuffle, 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 draw 5 new cards. It basically just resets the duel. It was uber powerful back in the day, so it still is banned in the TCG and OCG, but it's bad that Joey plays this. It's a strong card. Anyway, Joey sets his Fiber Jar face down along with his drop-off trap. He switches his Fiend Mega Cyber into defense and ends his turn. It's back to Mai, and she draws Harpy Lady Sparrow Formation. Joey, knowing that there is a chance the card she could have drawn is Phoenix Formation, decides to immediately play Drop Off, which makes Mai discard the card she just drew. However, Mai activates Trap Jammer to negate this. She discards her Amazoness Spellcaster to pay the cost for Trap Jammer. With Sparrow Formation in hand, she sets it face down and then enters a battle phase. She attacks and destroys the Fiend Mega Cyber. One of the Harpy Ladies then attacks Joey's face down monster. It is revealed to be Fiber Jar. Joey attempts to use its effect to reset the duel. However, Mai activates her Harpy's Featherstorm. This card can only be activated when a Harpy monster attacks. When she does, she can negate the effect of the attacked monster and then immediately end the battle phase. Unfortunately though, she is now unable to attack for game, and so she ends her turn. I'm going to be a bit nitpicky with this duel. There's so many cards that you are going to hear today that have the detriment of immediately ending the battle phase. You're going to probably hear that about like 6 times throughout this and the next duel. It's a little bit annoying. It feels like they've made these cards and they're like, oh crap, Joey was about to lose if another attack happens. It ends the battle phase. It ends the battle phase. So, I don't know. Ending the battle phase after an effect kind of is annoying, but it's just one of those things anyway. Anyway, Fiber Jar's effect is negated. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Neko Main King. He sets it face down. Now, this is a big gamble for Joey. You see, Neko Main King's effect is that when this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, it immediately ends the turn. Note that I said card effect. If this monster is destroyed by battle, nothing happens. Mai can just attack with the rest of her monsters and win the duel. Joey is gambling on the fact that Mai is about to draw Phoenix Formation and that she is going to use that effect on his monster. I think this is an insane gamble since he has Time Wizard. Time Wizard 50-50 is so much more likely than what Mai is about to do. Yes, it works out, but I think it's insane. But yeah, that's the play anyway. Hope this card gets destroyed by an effect rather than by battle. Joey ends his turn. It's Mai's turn, and she draws Harpy Lady Phoenix Formation. Now, Mai knows if she attacks with all of her monsters, she will win the duel. However, Fiber Jar from the previous turn has got her spooked. What if she thinks this face down is similar to Fiber Jar? I don't want all my monsters getting destroyed, sent back to the deck, and the only way I can trigger a flip monster's effect is if I attack into it. And so, fearing another Fiber Jar situation, Mai activates her Phoenix Formation spell. Unfortunately for Mai, this was the worst possible move she could have made, as not only did Neko Main King have 0 attack points, which means Joey is dealt no damage, but it also means her turn abruptly comes to an end. What a misplay. I think that's a case of just really overthinking your turn. It's Joey's turn. As he's about to draw, he is chosen by the legendary dragon Hermos. He releases the monster in an alternative world, and as such, he is granted its powers. When he returns back to the duel, it is revealed Joey has drawn this brand new card, the Claw of Hermos. Joey activates his Monster Reborn to bring back the Fiend Mega Cyber. He then normal summons his Time Wizard. He activates Claw of Hermos to fuse it with his Time Wizard. Together, they create a unique equip spell. The card created is Time Magic Hammer. He equips it to the Fiend Mega Cyber. It's really important to note here that Joey has no idea what this card can do, by the way. He hasn't a clue. Despite not knowing what this card does, Joey just decides to enter his battle phase and attack Harpy's pet dragon anyway. Mai, also unsure of what this card can do, decides to activate Harpy Lady Sparrow Formation to reduce all damage she might have taken to 0 and prevent her monster from being destroyed in the battle if it would have been. It turns out Mai activating this trap, though precautionary, it's a little bit wasted. She didn't need to. That's not how his card works, which we're about to learn, but not a huge deal, not really a misplay. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. The reason that it didn't matter was because Time Magic Hammer has the effect that when a monster equipped with this card declares an attack while the opponent controls a monster, quick effect, you can instead assign a random number from 1 to 6 to each monster your opponent controls. During your opponent's next standby phase, banish all monsters your opponent controls that have a number. Then return each monster during each standby phase that the number they were given corresponds to. Getting back to the attack, it is revealed to have done nothing except give each of Mai's monsters a random number. Harpy's pet dragon gets a 1, while the 3 Harpy ladies get a 2, 3, and 6. Thinking his card did pretty much nothing, Joey ends his turn. It's Mai's turn, and she draws a mysterious card. No idea what this card is, she never actually plays it, but I'm just going to say it's Elegant Egotist, because it will never be able to be played kind of thing, so Elegant Egotist. As Mai's standby phase happens, all of her monsters are banished, and it is here that Time Magic Hammer's effect is revealed. Mai, with literally nothing she can do, sets her Elegant Egotist face down and ends her turn. It's Joey's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Skull Dice. With an open field, Joey attacks Mai directly. After the damage, Joey sets his Skull Dice face down and ends his turn. It's Mai's turn, and the final turn of the duel. She draws and gets another mysterious card. I'll tell you what, you guys can tell me what this mysterious card is in the comment section below. It's not going to get used, so what do you think it is? On Mai's standby phase, Harpy's pet dragon returns to the field since it was sent 1 turn into the future. At this point, Mai starts to have a bit of a breakdown and recklessly starts to attack Joey's Fiend Mega Cyber. Joey reveals his set Skull Dice, which will now divide Harpy's pet dragon's attack by the result. Depending on the result, we have 3 outcomes to the duel. If Joey rolls a 1, he will lose, since there will be no attack change and he will take 300 damage from the battle. If Joey rolls a 2 or a 3, Mai and Joey both survive, but Harpy's pet dragon is destroyed. If Joey rolls a 4, 5, or 6, well, then he wins. The result is revealed to be the number 2, and so the attack of Harpy's pet dragon is halved. It is destroyed in the battle. Now Mai has a full-on panic attack. Fearing she is about to lose, Valon interrupts the duel by shattering the seal with his Orichalcos fragment. Due to these actions, the duel ends with no winner. The duel begins and Rafael goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Guardian Treasure, Rescuer from the Grave, and 4 mysterious cards that are never actually revealed. But that's fine though, because Rafael immediately plays his Guardian Treasure, which at the cost of 5 cards in his hand allows him to draw 2 new cards, and then, for as long as it remains on the field, during each draw phase, he can now draw 2 cards instead of 1. Rafael draws his 2 cards and receives Backup Gardener and Purity of the Cemetery. He sets both and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Baphomet, Polymerization, Necromancy, Pump Up, and a mysterious monster that differs between the sub and the dub. In the dub, it's Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, while in the sub, it appears to be a high-level normal monster. If we had to guess, probably Curse of Dragon. Logically, Curse of Dragon makes more sense because Yugi would never have been able to summon it, that's why it never saw play, whereas Obnoxious Celtic Guardian could have been beneficial to Yugi, so it seems like this might have been a dub error. So from now on, I'll refer to this as Curse of Dragon. Yugi starts by immediately activating Polymerization to fuse his Gazelle and Baphomet together to make Chimera, the flying mythical beast. He moves straight into his battle phase and attacks Raphael's face-down monster. Yugi does what we like to call a red flag in the Yu-Gi-Oh industry, where if someone explains what they're about to do, then something completely different is going to happen.
I'm sure your defensive monster won't stand a chance against Chimera!
Shock, Backup Gardener has more defense than Chimera. So, Yugi takes 100 damage and Backup Gardener is not destroyed. Yugi ends his turn here. It's Raphael's turn and he draws 2 cards due to the effect of Guardian Treasure. He gets Guardian Axe Graal and Guardian Graal. Get used to Raphael getting the perfect draw pair combo. He's going to do this a lot throughout this duel, so yeah. Raphael activates Gravity Axe Graal, equipping it to Backup Gardener, which increases its attack by 500, but also makes it so that all of Yugi's monsters cannot change their battle positions. However, this card doesn't stay equipped to Backup Gardener for long, since Raphael is now able to special summon Guardian Graal from his hand, as Gravity Axe Graal is on the field. He does this and then uses the effect of Backup Gardener to move the equipped spell from it to Guardian Graal, increasing its attack to 3000. Graal then attacks and destroys Yugi's Chimera. Now, since Chimera was destroyed, Yugi is able to special summon Baphomet back from his grave. Raphael ends his turn. It's back to Yugi and he draws 5-star Twilight. He activates it by tributing Baphomet, allowing him to summon 5 specific Kuribos from his deck to the field. These are Kuribo, Kuriba, Kuribi, Kuribear, and Kuribu. I love that these are all real cards now in the real world. That's so awesome. Keep in mind, for the rest of this duel, these monsters can't be tributed for a tribute summon. Now let's familiarise ourselves with what these monsters can do. Kuribo can be discarded from the hand to take no damage from an attack, and also in the anime, whilst it's on the field, when it's targeted for an attack, you can negate it, then destroy Kuribo and take damage equal to its attack. Kuriba can remove from play itself and Kuribet, Beat, Bo, and Boo to special summon Kuribabylon from your hand, deck, or grave. Kuribi, when a face-up Kuri you control is selected for an attack, you can negate the attack. Kuribet, you can remove from play this card and Kuribat, Beat, Bo, and Boo to special summon Kuri Bandit from your hand or deck. Kuribu, you can discard 1 trap card to select 1 monster your opponent controls. That monster loses 1500 attack until the end phase. I want you to keep in mind that Kuribet can summon Kuri Bandit because Kuri Bandit's ability is you're allowed to draw 5 cards from the top of your deck and then send all the monsters that you drew to the grave, but you get to keep everything else basically. That's a really good ability, and he does use this card in the rematch duel, but never in this duel. So while you're watching this duel and you ever see Kuribet on the field, know he could do this at any point, but he's not going to. Anyway, getting back to the duel, Yugi uses the effect of Kuriba to remove all of them from play to summon Kuribabalon, whose attack is the combined attack of all the Kuribos that were used for its summon. However, Yugi then plays Pump Up, which lets him double the attack of Kuribabalon. He goes into his battle phase and attacks Guardian Grawl, with the intention of both to be destroyed. However, the attack fails, as Rafael uses the ability of Rescuer from the Grave that he had sent to the grave during his first turn. Yugi's reaction to this is priceless.
You can't play a card from your graveyard!
I just did!
However, Yugi reveals his Kuribabalon's effect, which is if its attack is negated, it can remove itself from play to resummon the 5 Kuribo brothers back to the field. This seems like a shame to get rid of a good monster, however its attack was going to go down next turn, plus with all the Kuribos on the field, you've basically created an almost indestructible wall. And it's worth mentioning something brought up earlier, he could have summoned Kuribandit here, however he would be taking a risk, because while drawing 5 cards and then sending all the monsters to the grave is good, it's a gamble and he might not get any monsters to defend himself with, and if he takes these direct attacks, most likely he'll lose the duel. So Yugi ends his turn. It's back to Rafael and he draws twice, getting Exchange and Self-Tribute. He sets both face down. Why he set Exchange, I'm not too sure since it's crucial for his endgame and seems kind of risky to put it on the field, but it's no big deal. Rafael activates his face down Purity of the Cemetery. Since he has no monsters in his grave, every time Yugi's standby phase occurs, he will take 100 damage for each monster in his grave. However, if Rafael at any point has a monster in his grave, the card is destroyed. Rafael attacks with Guardian Grawl, targeting Kuribo, but Yugi activates Kuribi's effect to negate the attack at no cost. Rafael ends his turn. It's back to Yugi and he draws Pot of Greed. The standby phase occurs and Yugi takes 300 damage from Purity of the Cemetery. This is because he has 3 monsters, Gazelle, Baphomet, and Chimera. Yugi plays Pot of Greed, but not before letting everyone know what it does.
Pot of Greed lets me draw 2 cards from my deck!
He draws Dark Magician Girl and the Eye of Timaeus. He activates Kuriba's effect again to banish the Kuribo brothers to special summon Kuribabalon back from the banish zone. Note! This might be an illegal play because nowhere does it state you can special summon it from the banish zone, only from the hand, deck or graveyard, and it was definitely banished. However, if he has a second copy of Kuribabalon in his deck, then I guess this is fine. Regardless, with Kuribabalon on the field now, he tributes it to summon Dark Magician Girl, because remember, the Kuribo brothers couldn't be sacrificed due to their effects. Now, Yugi plays his Eye of Timaeus card, which merges with Dark Magician Girl to become Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. Note, the original Dark Magician Girl doesn't go to the grave. Instead, it's been transformed into a new card. As you can see later on, this monster is still on the field, so Timaeus basically warps the card rather than send it to the grave and put a new card on the field. Keep that in mind. Now, with his new monster, Yugi attacks Guardian Grawl with Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. But wait a minute! Guardian Grawl has more attack than Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight. What's Yugi thinking? He reveals his monster's effect, which is that when it attacks a monster, Yugi can discard a card to immediately destroy the opponent's monster without applying any damage. Yugi does this and discards Obnoxious Celtic Guard in the dub or Curse of Dragon in the sub. However, Rafael uses his face down spell, Self-Tribute, to pay 1000 life points to prevent Guardian Grawl from being destroyed. And you gotta love that JoJo face. Yugi is forced to end his turn here. It's back to Rafael and he draws twice, gaining the Seal of Orichalcos and Crystal Seal. He sets Crystal Seal face down and plays his set Exchange. Both players swap the only card that they have in their hands. Rafael receives Necromancy and Yugi receives the Seal of Orichalcos. Since Grawl can't attack into Dark Magician Girl without being destroyed, Rafael ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn and he draws Big Shield Gardener. The standby phase occurs, and now, since Yugi has 5 monsters in the grave, he takes 500 damage. Yugi jumps into his battle phase and attacks with Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. However, Rafael activates Crystal Seal in response. This makes it so that Dark Magician Girl cannot attack, be tributed, change its battle position, activate its effects, or even be selected as an attack target. Also, Crystal Seal can't be destroyed by other card effects. However, if the attack of the chosen monster changes, then the card is destroyed. Oh, and if your opponent only controls that monster, then you can attack around it basically directly. That does a lot of stuff, that card. This is a big hit to Yugi, and reluctantly, with no more plays left, he ends his turn by setting Big Shield Gardener face down. Rafael draws 2 cards, which are Rod of Silence KS'd and Guardian KS'd. He activates Rod of Silence, equipping it to backup Gardener, increasing its defense by 500. Now, since Rod of Silence is on the field, Rafael is allowed to normal summon Guardian KS'd, whose effect makes it unable to be targeted for attacks. However, if it's the only card on the field, the opponent can attack directly. Rafael enters his battle phase, attacking first with Guardian Graal. Big Shield Gardener is destroyed, and now, since Yugi controls no other monsters, Guardian KS'd attacks directly. The attack is successful, and Yugi's life points are reduced to a mere 1200. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Card of Sanctity. The standby phase occurs, and Purity of the Cemetery deals 600 damage, since there are now 6 monsters in the grave. Yugi plays Card of Sanctity, which allows himself and Rafael to both draw until they have 6 cards. We see Yugi's hand consists of Hand Control, Dark Magician, Sangan, Magical Hats, Defusion, and the Seal of Orichalcos. Why am I showing the Japanese hand? Well, that's because the dub got his hand wrong. This is an animation error. Raphael's hand consists of Wicked Breaking Flameberg Bow, Kishido Spirit, Aid to the Doomed, Rod of the Mind's Eye, Monster Rebirth, and Necromancy. Now this is a very big moment. Yugi looks at his hand and realises that nothing can keep him in the duel, as no matter what he does during the next standby phase, he will take 600 damage and lose the duel. Now the correct answer here is for Yugi to just admit defeat, surrender, saying, well done Raphael, you won, you beat me in this duel, and also I guess your philosophy is kind of right, I kind of considered using the Seal of Orichalcos, and then just rip the Seal of Orichalcos up in front of him, and they both just stand there awkwardly until everybody else comes and they can get out of there. And the reason that's the correct answer is because
there are no stakes involved in this duel. Even if you lost this card game, nothing would change at all.
Wait, what's that now? I could lose?
No one's gonna die from this duel, no one's kidnapped.
約束だぜ。ホプキンス教授を返してもらおうか。
教授はすでに解放してある。
Nothing can go wrong unless someone plays that field spell.
Now I activate the Seal of Orichalcos!
Now, little Yugi is locked behind the seal, unable to influence the Pharaoh's decisions. All of Yugi's monsters gain 500 attack. Yugi's spell and trap zones can now be used as monster zones, and monsters in those zones can't be targeted for attack when there is a monster in front of them. Oh, and of course, the loser of this duel now loses their soul. Yugi, in a drunken haze, professes that with this power, he could easily get 10 monsters to the field this very turn. Since Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight's attack was increased, Crystal Seal is destroyed. However, because the legendary dragons cannot coexist with the Seal of Timaeus, Timaeus abandons Yugi in the duel. Yugi goes on the offensive. He activates Hand Control, which lets him guess a spell card in his opponent's hand, and if it's right, they are forced to use it. Since Yugi gave Raphael Necromancy, he declares that, and Raphael is forced to use it. Its effect makes it so Yugi has to summon 4 random monsters from his grave to the field in defense. However, when any are destroyed, all monsters on Yugi's field lose 600 attack. The 4 randomly chosen monsters are Big Shield Gardener, Baphomet, Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts, and Babylon. Yugi then tributes Gazelle and Baphomet to summon Dark Magician. Now with a space, he moves Dark Magician Girl back into the spell and trap zone. With 5 open monster zones, Yugi activates Babylon's effect to remove itself from play to special summon the 5 Kuribo brothers back to the field. Kuribar's effect kicks in, banishing all of them again to resummon Babylon. However, this time it has 4,500 attack, since each Kuribo was boosted by the seal. Yugi enters his battle phase and uses Babylon to attack and destroy Guardian Graal. And now, since there is a monster in his grave, Purity of the Cemetery is destroyed. Yugi attacks next with Dark Magician, targeting backup Gardener. However, Raphael activates the effect of Aid of the Doomed from his hand, which, when one of his monsters are destroyed, lets him discard 2 cards to end the battle phase. He discards Kishido Spirit and the Wicked Breaking Flameberg Bow. Now, since none of Yugi's other monsters can get over backup Gardener, Yugi has to end his turn here. The question now becomes, could Yugi have actually won this turn? This time, Yugi sets the Seal of Orichalcos face down before he activates Card of Sanctity. Why? Because with 1 less card in his hand, when he uses Card of Sanctity this time, he gets to draw 6 cards instead of 5. And what would that 6th card have been? Catapult Turtle. Let's see how his turn would play out. Yugi plays hand control and declares Necromancy. Rafael summons the 4 random monsters from Yugi's grave. This time he sacrifices Big Shield Gardener to summon Catapult Turtle. He uses Catapult Turtle's effect, which, remember, is not a once per turn, and that's why it was broken in the real world for a while. He tributes Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts, to deal 750 damage, then Baphomet for another 700. However then, because Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight is sealed, and Babylon has no attack points, since it wasn't summoned through the Kuribo brothers, all that Yugi would have left to sacrifice is Catapult Turtle itself, leaving Raphael with 1050 life points. And unfortunately, with no more plays left and only Sangan, Dark Magician and Defusion in hand, Yugi would lose the duel. So what does this confirm? Well, no matter what Yugi would have done this turn, he could not have won the duel on his own. But what happens if he did the exact same play, but also used the seal? To make a long story short, now that everything is boosted, when Catapult Turtle tributes Gazelle and Baphomet, this time he'll do 1950 damage for both of them. And now, since Dark Magician Girl is freed from the crystal, she can be sacrificed, dealing 1250 damage, and this would win Yugi the duel, and Raphael's soul would be sealed, and Yugi wouldn't learn any lessons. Now with this, there's two things to consider. The original way that Yugi was trying to win this turn by attacking, that made sense. He would have won by attacking, but Raphael had a hand trap card, which Yugi would have had no way of knowing about. So to summarize, if Yugi would have set the Seal of Orichalcos before playing Card of Sanctity, he would have got Catapult Turtle, and he would now have had 2 options for victory, either by attacking with his high-powered monsters or sacrificing everything through Catapult Turtle's ability. There was no way of Yugi knowing which one was the correct one, and unfortunately, the one he chose was the wrong one. In this hypothetical, of course, he didn't set the seal in the actual duel, so technically, he did misplay. And of course, the second big thing is it requires Yugi to set the Seal of Orichalcos face down, which isn't a problem. It's a completely legal move to make in Yu-Gi-Oh! But in the anime, has anybody ever set a field spell card face down? Well, yes, actually, someone has. You see, Mako Tsunami set his Yumi field spell face down during Battle City, which should confirm that Yugi could have done this. However, when Mako Tsunami set his field spell, he set it in the spell and trap zones, and then when he activated it, he put it in his field zone. So it's a bit of a mess. By the way, thank you Justin Pei for pointing this out. So to summarize, Yugi could have won, but not without activating the Seal of Orichalcos. With that hypothetical out the way, let's get back to reality and see how the rest of this duel actually plays out. It's Raphael's turn and he draws Swords of Revealing Light and Limit Tribute. He activates Monster Rebirth to put Guardian Growl back into his deck. Then he sets Limit Tribute face down and activates Swords of Revealing Light to stop Yugi from attacking for 3 turns. Raphael ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn and he draws Catapult Turtle. With no way to attack Raphael, he sacrifices Big Shield Gardener to summon Catapult Turtle. Yugi attempts to use its effect, but Raphael plays his face down trap, Limit Tribute. Now, while this card is face up, both players can only tribute 1 monster per turn. This prevents Yugi from using Catapult Turtle's effect. Yugi ends his turn. Raphael does seem to have a lot of very specific counter cards that work perfectly in the situations that Yugi's in at the moment, but that's Yu-Gi-Oh, isn't it? Ignore me. It's back to Raphael and he draws Morale Boost and Nightmare Binding. He uses Nightmare Binding on Babylon, which reduces its attack by 800 and then increases his life points by 800. Also, Babylon can't use any of its effects nor be tributed. Raphael ends his turn here. It's back to Yugi and he draws Beast of Gilfer. Still unable to attack, he activates Catapult Turtle's effect. He chooses his Dark Magician for the tribute. The effect is successful, and 1500 damage is dealt directly to Raphael. And now, since Dark Magician is in the grave, Dark Magician Girl's attack increases by 300. Yugi ends his turn. Raphael draws Shrink and a card that is never revealed or used. He sets Shrink face down, and since he has no more moves left, he ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he too draws a card that is never revealed. He activates Catapult Turtle's effect again, this time choosing Dark Magician Girl as a tribute. Dark Magician Girl gives a sad glance at Yugi before being fired. If this move is successful, Yugi wins the duel. However, Raphael activates his Shrink spell to halve her attack, making it so that Raphael survives by a mere 100 life points. Technically, you can't use Shrink like this. You can't halve the monster's attack on the way as it's coming over, and you can't activate Shrink in response to the tribute of the Dark Magician Girl So this is technically an illegal move, but it's in the anime, so we'll allow it. Yugi ends his turn, and as he does, Swords of Revealing Light disappears, meaning Yugi can go all out on his next turn. However, unfortunately for Yugi, there will be no next turn. Raphael's turn and the final turn of the duel. He draws 2 cards, which are Celestial Sword Iatos and Guardian Iatos. Raphael activates Celestial Sword, equipping it to Backup Gardener to increase its attack by 300. However, more importantly, now that Celestial Sword is on the field and there are no monsters in Raphael's graveyard, he is able to special summon his ultimate monster, Guardian Iatos. He uses Backup Gardener's effect to move Celestial Sword onto her. Now, with all the pieces in place, Raphael activates Iatos' effect. He can banish monster cards from the top of Yugi's grave downward until a non-monster card is revealed. Then, Iatos gains attack equal to the combined attack of all those monsters. In reverse order, the monsters in Yugi's grave are Dark Magician Girl, Dark Magician, Big Shield Gardener, Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, and Baphomet. Each is absorbed into the blade of Iatos, but not before giving a disgusted look at what Yugi has become. Iatos' attack is boosted up to 10,000, and with that power, it attacks and destroys Yugi's Curry Babylon, winning Raphael the duel. The seal then takes its prize, ripping the soul of Yugi from his body, and sending it off to the Great Leviathan. The duel begins and Rex goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of the Seal of Orichalcos, 2 copies of Gillosaurus, Kaito Terra, Giant Rex, and Jurassic Heart. Rex wastes absolutely no time and immediately activates the Seal of Orichalcos. Now, for the rest of this duel, Rex's monsters will gain 500 attack points. His monsters can be summoned into the spell and trap zones, and monsters in the spell and trap zones can't be attacked if there is a monster in front of them. Rex will never use this, which I've just realized most of the duels in the Seal of Orichalcos, people don't actually take advantage of this, but regardless of the point, the most important thing that you need to keep in mind about the Seal of Orichalcos is now whoever loses the duel loses their soul. And so, Rex activates the effect of the 2 Gillosauruses in his hand, which is that they can special summon themselves straight to the field. However, by doing so, the opponent can special summon 1 monster from their grave to the field. Since Joey has no cards in his graveyard yet, basically he gets 2 special summons to the field for free. Rex follows this play by normal summoning his Kaito Terra to the field. He then sets Jurassic Heart face down and ends his turn. Note that all the monsters Rex summoned gained 500 attack due to the Seal of Orichalcos. Might as well mention, just for closure, can Rex special summon Gillosaurus without Joey having any monsters in his graveyard? Yes, he can. In the real world, Gillosaurus, when it's special summoned, lets the opponent special summon a monster from their hand. However, since the effect is a can, it isn't a mandatory thing that has to happen for it to work. By that logic as well, it's exactly the same thing for in the anime, where if your opponent has so many cards in the graveyard, yeah, you can still special summon them for free. The more you know. It's Joey's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Panther Warrior, Rocket Warrior, Scapegoat, Metal Morph, Magic Arm Shield, and Star Blaster. Joey summons his Panther Warrior to the field. Unfortunately, since Panther Warrior requires a monster to be tributed in order to attack, Joey simply sets his Scapegoat quick play spell face down and ends his turn. To be fair, with a 2000 attack Panther Warrior on the field, it is technically the strongest monster on the field, meaning that Rex's monsters can't attack over it. It's still got 1900, so it's a good offense as a good defense. This is a fine play from me. Now, it's worth noting, alternatively, Joey could have activated his Scapegoat this turn. He could have then tributed one of the Scapegoat tokens to allow Panther Warrior to attack and destroy one of Rex's monsters. Preferably Kaito Terra, since it's different to the other 2. I'm hoping he'd go for that one, because if he did, then Rex on his next turn would lose his fusion material. However, saying that, on Rex's next turn, he'd just make Giant Rex and attack over Panther Warrior. The duel would continue as normal from here until we get to the turn where Joey wants to summon his Red Eyes Black Dragon. Unfortunately, a knock-on effect has occurred and Joey won't have a monster to tribute to activate his spell's effects. So, if Joey would have gone on the offensive this early, well, he would have lost the duel later. It's back to Rex, and he draws Polymerization. He activates it straight away, fusing his Kaito Terra with one of his Gilosauruses in order to fusion summon his Horned Saurus. Thanks to its effect, it can attack directly on the turn it's fusion summoned. After this, Rex normal summons his Giant Rex. Its effect unfortunately prevents it from attacking if the opponent controls no monsters. Luckily, Joey does. And so, Rex enters his battle phase. First, he orders Hornsaurus to attack Joey directly thanks to its effect. Joey's life points drop to 1500. Giant Rex then attacks and destroys Panther Warrior, leaving him with only 1000 left. Finally, attempting to go for game, Rex orders Gilosauros to attack Joey directly. However, Joey activates his Scapegoat, which summons 4 sheep tokens to the field into defense. A replay occurs and Gilosauros destroys one of those sheep tokens. Rex ends his turn. Now, the play that Rex just did, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it at all. He thought he was going to go for game, which he was, unless Joey had something that could interrupt him, which he did. There's no way he could have known what the face down card was. It would have been safe to assume it probably would have stopped him, but that's regardless of the point. Nothing wrong with the play that Rex did. However, what if he did this a little bit different? Could he have changed the outcome of the duel? Yes, he could have. He could have won on the next turn. Through the power of hindsight, if he simply summoned Giant Rex and attacked with all 4 of his monsters, well, yes, he would have won the duel. Giant Rex attacks and destroys Panther Warrior, dealing 500 damage. The 2 Gilosauruses and Kaito Terra destroy 3 out of the 4 sheep tokens. On the next turn, Joey would summon his Rocket Warrior into defense and set 2 of his traps face down. Now, back to Rex, he would just go straight into his battle phase and attack with all 4 of his monsters. Joey would try to use his magical arm shield, but it would be negated. His other set trap, Metalmorph, sadly wouldn't be able to help him on defense. So, Giant Rex would destroy the last sheep token, Kaito Terra would destroy Rocket Warrior, and the 2 Gilosauruses with 1900 attack each would attack directly, dealing 3800 damage, thus winning Rex the duel. Again, I can't stress enough, Rex's initial play was absolutely fine, and only through the power of hindsight would you really know to do this play instead. However, sometimes more monsters on the field is better than just one big monster. But again, I can't hold this against Rex. It's not a misplay. It's just, if he'd have gone this route, he would have won the duel. Getting back to the duel, it's Joey's turn, and he draws Celebration of Creation. He summons his Rocket Warrior to the field into defense. With no way to deal with any of Rex's monsters, he sets Metalmorph and Magic Arm Shield face down, and then ends his turn. It's Rex's turn, and he draws Chain of the Underworld. Rex moves into his battle phase and uses Hornsaurus to attack Rocket Warrior. In response, Joey activates his Magic Arm Shield. The plan? To take control of Gilosauros and force Rex's monster to attack Gilosauros, thus destroying one of his monsters, and I think in the anime it would also inflict damage to the opponent as well, since it was his monster. Don't quote me on that one though. I'm not too sure. I'd have to check it, however it appeared in other duels and stuff. But regardless of the point, it doesn't work. This is because Rex activates his set counter trap, Jurassic Heart. This card negates the activation and effect of a trap card that would target a dinosaur-type monster. Magic Arm Shield is negated. Rocket Warrior is destroyed by the battle. Giant Rex then attacks and destroys one of the sheep tokens, followed by Gilosauros destroying another. Rex ends his turn by setting Chain of the Underworld face down. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Red Eyes Black Dragon. Are you ready for some absolute insane luck? Well, Joey activates his Star Blaster by tributing one monster on his field. He tributes the only monster he has, his last sheep token. Due to Star Blaster's effect, Joey must now roll a die. If the result of the die roll, combined with the level of the monster he tributed, equal the level of a monster in Joey's hand, he can special summon it. Let's do the maths here. Joey has Red Eyes Black Dragon in his hand. That's 7 stars. He's just tributed a sheep token, which is 1 star. So, Joey will need to roll a 6 in order to get 7, meaning he can summon his Red Eyes Black Dragon to the field. If Joey rolls anything other than a 6, he will lose the duel. And so, with only a 16.7% chance of rolling the exact result he needs, Joey rolls the exact result he needs. Red Eyes Black Dragon is summoned to the field. To be fair, they do address Joey's luckiness at the start of this duel, which Joey like cringes at and everything, but it is true. We'll let this one slide. One big lucky moment in a duel is absolutely fine. I'm sure it wouldn't happen again. Anyway, Joey follows this play by activating his set Metal Morph. This trap equips itself to Red Eyes, increasing its attack and defense by 300. But not only that. Now, whenever Red Eyes declares an attack, it will gain attack equal to half the monster it battles. Note that this only works on the offense. If it's attacked, it doesn't get the boost. And so, Joey enters his battle phase and uses Red Eyes to attack and destroy Rex's Horned Saurus. Joey ends his turn by setting Celebration of Creation face down. It's Rex's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Tyrant Dragon. Real quick, I try to ask this, is Tyrant Dragon like Rex's new Red Eyes Black Dragon for his deck? Rex is like a dinosaur duelist that seems to have like a dragon as like the spearhead of the deck. So is that what Tyrant Dragon is? This is the question for all of you. Is that how it works? Anyway, with no monsters able to get over Joey's 2700 attack Red Eyes, Rex tributes Gillosaurus and Giant Rex to summon Tyrant Dragon. Rex enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Red Eyes. Since Metal Morph's attack boost only works on offense, unfortunately, it didn't save it. Upon a monster's destruction, Rex activates his set trap, Chain of the Underworld. Thanks to this trap, the moment a monster is destroyed, it is special summoned back to the field with 700 less attack. The downside is that the opponent gets to draw a card. A weakened Red Eyes returns to the field into attack. Joey draws one new card. He gets Gearfried the Iron Knight. Now, the reason why Rex wants Red Eyes back on the field is for two reasons. One, Rex wants to punish Red Eyes. This was originally his monster, he feels like it's betrayed him, so he wants to destroy it twice in battle to show it who's boss. In terms of the duel, however, it's much simpler. Rex's new boss monster, Tyrant Dragon, has a special ability. If it destroys a monster by battle, it can attack again once more into another monster. But not only that, it also has a bit of immunity. It can negate and destroy any trap card that would target Tyrant Dragon. Nice bit of protection there. And so, Tyrant Dragon attacks again, attempting to go for game. Joey, however, activates his set Celebration of Creation, which can only be activated if a monster is special summoned via a spell or trap. Due to this trap's effect, Rex's turn immediately comes to an end. Note that since that trap didn't target Tyrant Dragon, it just affected the field or whatever, it wasn't negated or anything like that, so Tyrant Dragon couldn't stop it, basically. It's Joey's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Pot of Greed. Now, while activating Pot of Greed first would have been the much safer and smarter move to make, this is Joey Wheeler. He instead first summons his Gearfried the Iron Knight into attack. The reason this is risky, if Joey activates Pot of Greed now and gets nothing, well, he's guaranteed to get a loss on his next turn. Tyrant Dragon just attacks into the attack position Gearfried, it's over. What he could have done, activate Pot of Greed, oh, I didn't get anything good, I've only got Gearfried, set Gearfried face down. Rex would have to draw another monster in order to win on his next turn. If he doesn't, then he's just going to attack with his Tyrant Dragon, and Joey would get another turn. It was a weird risk to make, and the only reason I could think you would make that risk is if you knew, or you wanted to take a massive gamble on the fact that the next card you're going to draw is going to guarantee you win with Gearfried the Iron Knight on the field. Which is what happens. At the end of the day, what am I talking about? This is Joey Wheeler. He's willing to risk it all, gambling on the perfect top deck. And so he activates Pot of Greed. This lets him draw two new cards. He gets Release Restraint, a card that can only be used on Gearfried the Iron Knight, and the Claw of Hermos, which luckily Joey has another monster on the field that he can fuse it with to make it into an equip spell, which this monster will benefit from. What insane luck you have, Joey. Well done. And so, with all the pieces in place, Joey goes for game. He activates Release Restraint. This card's effect tributes Gearfried the Iron Knight on the field in order to special summon Gearfried the Sword Master from his hand, deck, or grave. Gearfried's Sword Master is summoned to the field, which, fun fact, is the true form of Gearfried, and there's a really cool backstory to this card. Basically, the iron surrounding Gearfried was actually restraining his powers. And when you think about it, Gearfried's ability not to be equipped by spells is a reference to how Gearfried personally nerfed himself by promising to never wield a blade again. I never knew that about Gearfried. That's actually pretty cool how its lore now ties into its card effects. That's pretty sweet. Absolute shenanigans in terms of Joey Wheeler top deck luck, but still pretty cool. Joey activates the final card in his hand, his legendary dragon, the Claw of Hermos. Due to its effect, it can fuse with a monster to become an equipped spell. He fuses it with Red Eye's Black Dragon to make the equipped spell Red Eye's Black Dragon Sword. It equips itself to Gearfried's Sword Master. Due to Gearfried's effect, by being equipped with an equipped spell, its effect allows Joey to destroy one card the opponent controls. Joey destroys Tyrant Dragon. Red Eye's Black Dragon Sword effect allows Gearfried to gain 1000 attack, and then a further 500 attack for each dragon on the field. With no dragons anymore, Gearfried's attack sits at 3600. Joey enters his battle phase and orders Gearfried to attack Rex directly. With only 2550 life points left, Joey wins the duel. Rex's soul is taken by the seal of Orichalcos. The duel begins and Weevil goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Pheromone Wasp, Parasite Caterpillar, Insect Queen, the Seal of Orichalcos, DNA Surgery, and Mimesis. Weevil immediately plays the Seal of Orichalcos. While it is activated, it increases the attack of all of Weevil's monsters by 500. It also allows him to summon monsters into his spell and trap zone, and then when they are in there, they are unable to be attacked if there is a monster in the row in front of them. Fun fact, Weevil will never use this ability of the Seal of Orichalcos. Technically, the way the duel goes, he doesn't really need to use this mechanic, and if I had to assume why he doesn't use it, well, he plays a lot of spells and traps in this duel, a lot of continuous ones, I should add. So maybe he wants to kill his back row free? We'll let him slide with that. Oh, the Seal of Orichalcos does one more thing. What was it now? Oh yes, whoever loses this duel now will lose their soul. Weevil ends his turn by summoning his Pheromone Wasp, and then sets DNA Surgery and Mimesis face down. Mimesis. I think it's Mimesis, actually. Mimesis? Mimesis. It's Yugi's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, Gaia the Fierce Knight, Curse of Dragon, Karibo, Berserker Soul, and a card that is never seen, never played, and ultimately gets discarded. This card is going to stay in his hand till the very end of the duel, so we're going to have to assume it is something that he just could not use at all. So, I am going to say it is Dark Magician. Thematically, this could work as well, because Dark Magician is also a little bit annoyed with Yugi from what he did in the last duel. He even gave him that stern look, and he's unable to play it, so it works in the context of the duel. I'm just gonna say, it's Dark Magician. Yugi starts by summoning Obnoxious Celtic Guardian into attack. He immediately moves into his battle phase and attacks. However, as he does, Weevil activates his face down Mimesis. Due to its effect, since an insect-type monster is targeted for an attack, he can return it back to his hand and then special summon another level 4 or lower insect-type monster he has. He summons Parasite Caterpillar. It now becomes the attack target. It is destroyed. However, due to its effect, upon its destruction, it equips itself onto Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. Now, while equipped, Celtic Guardian is treated as an insect type. It cannot be tributed, it cannot be selected as an attack target, and if it is the only monster on the field, Weevil's monsters can attack directly. And finally, this is the big one. After 3 of the opponent's standby phases after this card was equipped to a monster, it will be destroyed, and will then special summon a Poison Butterfly from Weevil's deck to Yugi's field. Yugi ends his turn.
It's Weevil's turn and he draws Insect Barrier. He resummons his Pheromone Wasp and uses it to attack directly. The attack is successful. Due to its effect, since it has inflicted direct damage, as Weevil ends his battle phase, he is able to special summon a level 4 or lower insect-type monster from his deck. He chooses to summon his Leggle. Now, in his main phase 2, Weevil activates the continuous spell, Insect Barrier. While it remains face up on the field, all insect-type monsters Yugi controls cannot declare an attack. But Yugi only has one insect-type monster on his field that he can't attack with anyway. Why would he play this? It's because he's got DNA surgery face down, obviously. Weevil ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Polymerization. He activates it to fuse his Curse of Dragon and Gaia the Fierce Knight that he has in his hand together to make Gaia the Dragon Champion. Yugi attacks and targets Leggle. However, Weevil activates his face down DNA surgery and declares Insect. Now, for as long as it remains face up on the field, all monsters on the field become insect type. And since Insect Barrier is also on the field, that means that Yugi cannot declare an attack. Yugi reluctantly ends his turn.
We get a funny sub versus dub moment here. In the sub, both duelists dodge the underpass wordlessly. Whereas in the dub, I found it funny that Yugi warns Weevil of the underpass and even says thank you.
Weevil, look out!
Thanks for the warning.
No, it just made me laugh. And while we're talking about funny things, I love the shot of Taya when the Seal of Orichalcos pushes her back. It just made me laugh what the cameraman was pointing at. I don't know.
It's back to Weevil, and he draws Cell Division. He activates it. Thanks to its effect, he can select one level 3 or lower insect-type monster he controls, and then special summon a token version of that monster with the same stats. Weevil chooses his Leggle. It doesn't stay for long though, as he sacrifices it and Pheromone Wasp to summon his Insect Queen. Which I'm only now realizing he shouldn't have. Joey won this card off him in the Battle City.
However, there is an explanation. In the sub, it is actually shown that Joey chose not to take Weevil's rarest card because he wouldn't be able to use it. That's why he took the less rare Insect Queen and is most likely the reason that Weevil has more than one. Very clever.
Anyway, due to Insect Queen's effect, it gains 200 attack for every insect monster on the field. Since there are 4, its attack increases by 800. Weevil attacks, first directly with his Leggle, since its effect allows him to attack directly. Weevil then tributes his Leggle so that Insect Queen can attack. He attacks and destroys Gaia the Dragon Champion. Following this, since a monster was destroyed by Insect Queen, it special summons one insect token to the field in attack position. Weevil ends his turn. 2 things I want to mention about this turn. 1, Yugi has Kaiba in his hand and he never activates it. He took a chunky bit of damage here, so should he have played it, it would have helped him out a little bit later. I think Yugi didn't want to negate those 2 damages because he wants to hold on to Kaiba just in case there's a bigger bit of damage later that might be lethal. I guess that makes sense. He's going to do something really silly later, but that's for later, don't worry about it. And the second thing is, and quite a big one, you know if Weevil would have left the Leggle on the field, not summoned Insect Queen and attacked over Gaia, Gaia wasn't a threat as long as that Insect Barrier was on the field. Weevil could just attack over and over again with Leggle. He's only got 1900 life points left at this point, so 8, 16, 24, 3 more direct attacks, and, well, Weevil's won the game.
However, to counter that play,
Yugi could have discarded his Kaiba for one of the attacks to negate one. He could have also used a card he's going to get later to destroy Leggle, so it's just like dealt with completely. It's hard to say whether he'd have won, but if he would have followed that path, maybe the duel would have been different? I wonder. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Natural Selection. With very little options, Yugi summons his Kaiba to the field into defense. It is transformed into an insect due to DNA surgery. And since a new insect-type monster is on the field, Insect Queen's attack increases further. Yugi sets his Natural Selection face down and ends his turn. This is a really nonsensical turn by Yugi, and I don't really understand why he summons Kaiba into defense. It's better off in his hand. At any point he can discard it and he doesn't take any damage. It's doing the same thing on the field, but it's more at risk, and as we're going to find out later, it's beneficial for Weevil to 1, have a monster on the field because it's a new insect-type monster, and also he's going to attack into it and destroy it, which will boost another monster in a moment. So he might as well have just held it in his hand because he's got a trap card face down That can keep him alive for another turn. It's a misplay. Yugi, you misplayed. It's Weevil's turn, and he draws Armored Centipede. At the start of Weevil's main phase 1, Yugi activates his face-down Natural Selection. Due to its effect, he can destroy one of Weevil's monsters, and then special summon an identical token version of it to his side of the field, with the exact same stats. However, it is destroyed during the end phase. Insect Queen is destroyed. Weevil unphased tributes his insect token to summon Armored Centipede. He then attacks and destroys Karibo. Due to its effect, since it destroyed an insect type, in battle, its attack increases by 500. Weevil ends his turn, and as he does, the Insect Queen token is destroyed. It wasn't the most optimal thing for Yugi to activate Natural Selection straight away. He probably should have saved that for the battle phase in case he activated something that might have been like a bit spicy. But overall, it didn't really matter, so it's fine. However, yet again, I've got to reiterate, the setting of the Karibo into defense was not a great play. And as you can saw in this turn, it's made his monster stronger. Not great. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws his trump card, the legendary Eye of Timaeus. Since 3 turns have passed, Parasite Caterpillar destroys Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, and then special summons Poison Butterfly from Weevil's deck to Yugi's field. Now, due to its effect, it makes Yugi take 500 effect damage during each of his end phases. Yugi, knowing he only has 1200 life points left, activates the Eye of Timaeus. Due to its effect, it can fuse with any other monster to become a new, unique fused form. However, the merger fails, and Timaeus destroys itself. It seems the sentient card did not take a liking to Yugi's betrayal in the previous duel, and so it refused to lend Yugi its power. And as such, it negated its own effect. Yugi, mortified and unable to attack, is forced to end his turn. As he does, Poison Butterfly inflicts 500 damage to his life points. Here's a question I would like to pose to all of you. We never get to see the Timaeus fused with Poison Butterfly monster. However, Yugi was sure it would turn the tide of battle. So I want to ask all of you guys, if Konami was to make this card in the real world, what name would this monster have? But more specifically, what would its effect be? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm really curious to see what you all come with. Try and make it balanced, of course. I assume it has something to do with dealing damage if it's absorbed Poison Butterfly, so... But yeah, let me know. Maybe Konami will make it one day. It's back to Weevil and the penultimate turn of the duel. Weevil draws Infestation. He sets it face down. Since he is unable to attack over Poison Butterfly, he ends his turn. While Weevil's Poison Butterfly is his win condition, and everything he's got set up now, he's going to win during the end of Yugi's turn. Let's just say Poison Butterfly never got summoned. The effect of his cocoon thingy never summons out a Poison Butterfly, or if he just didn't have Poison Butterfly in his deck, then it just never destroys the monster, or it destroys the monster and it just disappears rather than summoning Poison Butterfly. That might be a thing. Fun fact, he would have won. He would have just attacked with his monster because Yugi would have had 1700 life points, so that would have been game right here. However, that is not the case because Weevil planned for this outcome. He wanted this card out. And also, most likely, maybe you had to have Poison Butterfly be summoned to even use this card in the first place. So, it's fine. It's Yugi's turn and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Breaker, the Magical Warrior. He summons it to the field, and as he does, its effect activates, which places a spell counter on itself, increasing its attack by 300. Weevil, in response, activates his face-down Infestation. This card decreases the attack of all monsters on the field by 100, and then inflicts 100 damage to both players for every monster they control. Now, due to this, with only 500 life points left, when Yugi ends his turn, as long as Poison Butterfly is still on the field, he will lose the duel. And it is here where Weevil makes the biggest mistake of his life. He whips out a card saying, "Bro, this is Yugi. Here he is. I'm such a nice guy. You can have him back." Yugi walks over, pretty grateful. Nice guy Weevil, good thing for him to do. However, Weevil tears it in half. Yugi reacts, and then Weevil laughs and says, "Bro, it was just a prank. I'm kidding. Don't you have a sense of humor?" But it's too late. The emotional damage has been done. Yugi declares he's gonna end this whole man's career. Yugi, in a fit of rage, activates the effect of his breaker, the Magical Warrior. By removing a spell counter from it, he can destroy one spell or trap on the field. He destroys Insect Barrier. Now, with nothing to prevent Yugi from attacking, he uses Poison Butterfly to destroy Armored Centipede. The attack is successful. Yugi then attacks directly with Breaker the Magical Warrior. Weevil now thinks he's won, since Yugi has no further attacks. However, that's where Yugi reveals there will be no next turn. He activates the spell he's had in his hand since the beginning of the duel, Berserker Soul. Now, by discarding his entire hand, he can choose one monster with 1500 attack or less. He can then mill cards from the top of his deck until he gets a non-monster card. Every time a monster card is drawn during this process, Breaker the Magical Warrior gains an additional attack. Yugi draws. The first card he gets is a Monster Cardo. I mean, it's a monster card, monster card. He attacks directly. Yugi draws again and gets another monster. Breaker attacks again, this time reducing Weevil's life points down to 0. And with that, Yugi has won the... Oh, he's not done, I'm sorry. So he attacks again. So that's game again. Oh god, he's going again. Another monster, so he attacks again, and oh god, he's going again. Another monster, this time Alpha the Magnet Warrior, and there he goes. Yep, another monster. He draws a final time. No, Yamate, Yugi! The seal of Orichalcos takes Weevil's soul. However, Yugi had already broken Weevil's spirit, so there wasn't much left to take, let's be honest. And with that, Yugi wins the duel.
The duel begins and Yugi goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Sangan, Dark Magician Girl, Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Polymerization, and Monster Reborn. Yugi decides that the best play he can make on the first turn with this hand is to set his Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, face down and end his turn. Now, I'm gonna have to assume that Yugi doesn't know that they've both got the same hands and are gonna draw cards at the same rate as each other at the start of this duel. I'm just gonna have to assume he's oblivious, the same as Yami Yugi at the start. Because if he's not oblivious, this is the worst possible play he could have made. And I mean, regardless, even if he doesn't know what cards Yugi's got in his hand, he could have just played a much better play anyway. He could have set that Sangan face down so that at least when it's destroyed, he could get another monster from his deck straight to his hand. Even better, set that Alpha the Magnet Warrior face down. That thing has 1700 defense. I mean, it's his deck after all. He should know that Yami won't have a card in his deck that is easily summonable so early in the duel that can get over a 1700 defense monster. It's just mad. And regardless of all that, with Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts in his hand and Polymerization, why not hold on to Gazelle? Just wait a minute to see if he draws Baphomet, or if even Yami Yugi uses Baphomet and gets his in the graveyard, so he can fuse with it from his hand, or steal one from the opponent's graveyard with Monster Reborn. There's so many better options. You just pick the worst one, but it's done now. Let's move on. It's Yami's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Sangan, Dark Magician Girl, Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Polymerization, and Monster Reborn. Deja vu, am I right? Well, let's see what Yami can do with his hand. Yami starts by summoning his Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, to the field into attack. He uses it to attack and destroy Yugi's set Gazelle. With no more moves, Yami ends his turn. I know there wasn't that much in this turn, but this turn was actually fine for Yami. This was a fine play. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Baphomet. Yugi insanely sets his Sangan face down and ends his turn. Why? Why would you do that? Summon your Alpha the Magnet Warrior. Monster Reborn the Gazelle in the graveyard. Activate Polymerization. Make a Chimera. Attack over Gazelle, then attack directly. That's 2000 damage. This misplay is actually so obvious that it's actually called out by Yami Yugi on the next turn. He even comments on the fact that a single misplay can create a domino effect for the rest of the duel, resulting in a loss. And he's right. Had Yugi done this play, he would have been in a much better off position. And had he set that Alpha the Magnet Warrior on his first turn, it would have survived the attack from Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts. Yami would have also taken some damage from this. This turn, Yugi activates Polymerization, makes Chimera, activates Monster Reborn to bring back Baphomet, normal summon the Sangan, switch the Alpha the Magnet Warrior into attack, and win. Now, if I had to give a defense for these mad plays that Yugi is doing, perhaps he is trying to create a very specific endgame. He's trying to create the endgame between Yami and Rafael, where the Catapult Turtle was on the field and he started sacrificing his monsters. At the end of the day, this apparition of Yugi is trying to teach Yami a lesson in order to conquer his own darkness, so that would make the most sense. But if that's the case, it's just a little bit of a letdown, because I like it when people go for the win, even if they're trying to teach a lesson kind of thing. Regardless, Ghost Yugi, you had a fantastic win on a platter, but you threw it all away. Misplay to you. It's back to Yami, and he draws Baphomet. He immediately activates his Polymerization, fusing the Gazelle on his field with the Baphomet in his hand to fusion summon Chimera the Flying Mythical Beasts. Yami then normal summons his Alpha the Magnet Warrior and uses it to attack and destroy Yugi's set Sangan. Since it was sent from the field to the graveyard, Yugi can now add a monster with 1500 or less attack from his deck straight to his hand. Weirdly, the animation here makes it look like he adds Alpha the Magnet Warrior to his hand, but we know that this can't happen because he already has it in his hand. However, since the card he adds doesn't matter too much because he's going to discard it on the next turn, let's just say it's Gamma the Magnet Warrior. It fits the criteria and it's kind of like the card it looked like he added, so Gamma. Regardless, it is here that it's revealed that adding the card was not the point of this play. It was actually so that Yugi could shuffle his deck, meaning he will no longer draw the same cards as Yami throughout the rest of the duel. This is a good and bad thing. It's a good thing because, well, the opponent doesn't know what he's got in his hand and what he's going to draw from now on. It's just a bad thing because now you won't know what your opponent's going to draw anymore. So, yeah. Anyway, Yami orders his Chimera to attack Yugi directly. Yami ends his turn. It's worth noting that Yami could have also used Monster Reborn if he wanted to and brought back Gazelle and done an extra 1500 damage on top of all of this. But I think using that would have been a bit of an overextension since he wouldn't have gone for game there. So I think saving this card for later is the better play, so no misplay. He's going to lose it on his next turn, but there was no way of him knowing that, so it's fine. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Card Destruction. Yugi sets his Monster Reborn spell face down and then activates Card Destruction. Now, both players are forced to discard their entire hands and then draw the same number of cards they just discarded. Yugi discards 5 cards. Just to keep you up to date, the cards he discards are Dark Magician Girl, Baphomet, Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Gamma the Magnet Warrior, and Polymerization. Yugi draws 5 new cards. He gets the Seal of Orichalcos, Queen's Knight, Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, and 2 mysterious cards that we will never see played throughout the rest of this duel. I don't know what they are, but they're not helpful in any way, I don't think. So I don't know. What could they be? Yami discards 3 cards. Dark Magician Girl, Monster Reborn, and Sangan. He draws 3 new cards. He gets Giant Soldier of Stone, Divine Wind, and a mysterious card. He will never play this card throughout the rest of this duel as well. No idea what it is. Who knows? Now, I've been moaning a lot about Ghost Yugi's plays in this duel, but here is where I have to have a little bit of a moan about the animation. Specifically, cards in the hand. This happens throughout the entire episode, but this is the bit that I noticed the most. The first error is Yugi draws Card Destruction, but he sets it straight face down as soon as he draws it into a monster zone. We actually see it on his duel disc in the next shot. However, ignoring that, it's still an error in the fact that he drew Card Destruction and set it face down. This is a mistake because the card he actually set face down is Monster Reborn. We know he couldn't draw Monster Reborn here, because we saw it in his hand earlier. So that's 2 or 3 animation errors already, but we're still not done. Yugi is supposed to have 7 cards in his hand at the start of this turn. However, we see him with only 4. He then sets the Monster Reborn face down and activates Card Destruction, so he should now have 5 cards in his hand. Except, we see him draw 4 cards, and then in the next shot after that, he's holding 7 cards in his hand. Luckily, this doesn't affect the plays that are made, but it just looks awful on screen. I just didn't like it. It's just, you know, it's just one of those things. Anyway, Yugi, having drawn the Seal of Orichalcos, activates it. Now, all of Yugi's monsters summoned will gain 500 attack. The seal can't be destroyed by card effects. Monsters can be summoned into the spell and trap zone. Monsters in the spell and trap zone can't be attacked if there's a monster in front of them. And monsters can be moved back and forth. And allegedly all monsters become dark, but I can't remember if we confirmed that. I talked about it in the Orichalcos video, I can't remember, but anyway. Yugi activates his set Monster Reborn to bring back Dark Magician Girl. He then normal summons his obnoxious Celtic Guardian into attack. With both monsters boosted by the seal, Yugi enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Yami's Alpha the Magnet Warrior with obnoxious Celtic Guardian. He then attacks with Dark Magician Girl, destroying Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast. Since Chimera was destroyed, its effect special summons a Baphomet from Yami's grave to the field. He summons it into defense. With no more plays, Yugi ends his turn. It's back to Yami, and he draws Big Shield Gardener. With little options, Yugi summons his Big Shield Gardener into face-up defense and ends his turn. Why he didn't summon it into face-down defense, I will never know. It only annoys me more in this duel, because Yugi on his first 2 turns was summoning monsters in face-down defense. So you have a 2600 defense monster summoning face-down defense. I don't know why they don't do it. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Magic Formula. He normal summons Queen's Knight to the field. He then activates Magic Formula, which increases the attack of a spellcaster type monster by 500 points. He equips it to his Dark Magician Girl. Yugi enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Baphomet with Queen's Knight. He then attacks and destroys Big Shield Gardener with Dark Magician Girl. Finally, Yugi attacks directly with obnoxious Celtic Guardian. Yugi ends his turn. Now, an alternative play that Yugi could have done here was, at the cost of 600 life points, he could have used his Queen's Knight to attack into that Big Shield Gardener. Because he should know this, it's his own deck after all. When Big Shield Gardener is attacked in defense, it switches into attack after that battle. So that means Yugi could attack with his Dark Magician Girl, inflicting 2,900 damage. This would put Yami Yugi's life points down to a mere 200. Finally, he could have used Celtic Guardian to mop up the Baphomet on the field to leave Yami's field completely empty. Would this play have changed the outcome of the duel? No. Basically, on the final turn, when Yugi tributes his Queen's Knight to deal 1,000 damage through his Catapult Turtle's effects, we have a new problem. Our life points are too low, and Yami's Divine Wind will get us even quicker. The only alternative that there could have been was with the Catapult Turtle on the field if it tributed itself to deal the damage. Now, I don't think that would ever happen because in the anime, it only ever tributes other monsters so it can launch them. I can't see it launching itself. Well, if that was the case, it would have dealt 750 damage to Yugi, which would have attempted to go for game. Yugi would have played his Divine Wind, which would have dealt the same damage back to him, plus 500, which was 1,250. With 1,300 life points, we'd survive 50, but we've got rid of Divine Wind, so as soon as Swords of Revealing Light ends, it might have changed the outcome of the duel. And if you would have thought to yourself, oh, but Yugi's monsters in attack would be a hindrance, because if any of them get attacked, he's going to lose, we could always move those into the back row, since he does have the Seal of Orichalcos on the field, so he could have kept them safe with his Dark Magician Girl on the front row. I'm seeing nothing but misplays from Ghost Yugi here, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, it's Yami's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Swords of Revealing Light. Yami sets his Divine Wind counter trap face down, summons his Giant Soldier of Stone in face-up defense, and finally activates Swords of Revealing Light to prevent Yugi from attacking for 3 whole turns. Yami ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Catapult Turtle. Going for his endgame, he tributes his obnoxious Celtic Guardian to summon his level 5 Catapult Turtle. Yugi immediately activates its effect. Now, by tributing a monster, he can inflict damage equal to half the tributed monster's attack. By doing this, he can win despite being unable to attack. This is also a mirror image of the end game of the Rafael duel, except swapped. Don't you see? Ghost Yugi is his inner darkness. He's doing his darkest plays, and he's using the Seal of Orichalcos. It's crazy. And so, Yugi tributes his Queen's Knight. Half of its attack is dealt as damage to Yami. Yugi then activates Catapult Turtle's effect again, this time tributing his Dark Magician Girl. Since Dark Magician Girl has 3,000 attack, Yami would take 1,500 damage. However, before the damage can be dealt, Yami activates his counter trap, Divine Wind.
This card negates any effect damage he would take and instead inflicts the damage back to the opponent, plus an extra 500. And so, Yugi takes 1500 damage plus the 500, which is the perfect amount of damage for Yami to win the duel.
The duel begins, and I just want to go right off the bat and say this is the most wacky duel I think you'll see in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. It's barely a duel since so much stuff happens off screen. It's more of a fight really, but it is obeying the Yu-Gi-Oh game mechanics. So I just want to keep that in mind when this just seems really well weird edited. I just want to point this out now. The duelists in this duel perform awful. We'll see what I mean. The duel begins and the Orichalcos soldier goes first. He draws off screen and his opening hand consists of the Seal of Orichalcos, Orichalcos Gaigus, and 4 mysterious cards, which will never be used for the rest of this duel. I don't think he even looks at them. Orichalcos soldier right off the bat activates the Seal of Orichalcos. Now all his monsters gain 500 attack. He can summon into the back row, blah, blah, blah. He won't do any of those things. The most important thing that you need to know is the loser of this duel will now lose their soul. He summons his Orichalcos Gaigus to the field into attack. This monster has the effect that when it is destroyed, it can special summon itself back to the field immediately, but it cannot attack for the rest of the turn, and you must skip your next draw phase. But it gains 500 attack times the number of times it has been special summoned by its own effect during the duel. Orichalcos soldier ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Baphomet, Polymerization, Dark Magician Girl, Excalibur, and a mysterious card. Yugi activates Polymerization, fusing Gazelle and Baphomet together to make Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast. He attacks and destroys Orichalcos Gaigus. Orichalcos soldier takes the first damage of the duel. The effect of Gaigus activates, returning it back to the field with 500 extra attack points. Yugi ends his turn. It's the Orichalcos soldier's turn, and due to Gaigus's effect, his draw phase is skipped. Soldier moves straight into his battle phase and crashes Orichalcos Gaigus into Yugi's Chimera. Since it's weaker, Chimera destroys it again. However, it returns back to the field, now with an extra 1000 attack points. Orichalcos soldier ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Fissure. Yugi, knowing that Battle Destruction definitely brings Gaigus back to the field, wants to test if Spell Destruction would permanently destroy it instead. So he activates his spell, Fissure, which lets him destroy one monster the opponent controls with the lowest attack. Since Gaigus is the only monster, it's destroyed. Yugi's gamble was unsuccessful, as Gaigus's effect returns it back to the field with 1500 extra attack. Yugi ends his turn. Fun facts! Yugi could have won on the second turn of the duel. Just equip that Excalibur card to Chimera. Now with double its attack, destroy Gaigus. Yugi wins the duel. It's not 100% sure if he did have Excalibur that early in the duel, but the way I've reversed engineered it, it just makes the most sense that he had it all the way back then. But yeah, it's Orichalcos soldier's turn, and due to Gaigus's effects, his draw phase is skipped again. Now with enough attack points, Gaigus attacks and destroys Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast. Due to Chimera's effect, since it was destroyed, it summons one of its fusion materials to the field. For some reason, Yugi summons Gazelle instead of Baphomet, and for some reason he summons it into attack, not that it really matters at the moment. Orichalcos soldier ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Mirror Force. Despite Battle Destruction and Spell Destruction both triggering Gaigus's effect, meaning it's probably just any destruction in general that makes this monster come back to the field, Yugi's like, might as well cover all the bases. Let's try Trap Destruction. So he sets his Mirror Force face down and ends his turn. Now I want to say that leaving his Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, into attack points is a misplay. What if the opponent manages to destroy spells and traps and then he can just attack into it? That's a lot of damage to take. Not that the opponent is ever going to do that because he's just one tracked and does one play, that's it. But I guess you can see that leaving this monster into attack is a way of baiting the opponent into attacking it so that you can use Mirror Force, but that makes no sense because the opponent is going to attack anyway. You could put 5 face downs on the field, he'll still attack. Anyway, it's back to the Orichalcos soldier. Having not revived his monster on the last turn, he actually gets to draw a card this turn. However, it must have been nothing because it's added to his now hand of 5 dead mysterious cards. Orichalcos soldier moves straight into his battle phase and orders Gygus to destroy Gazelle. However, Yugi activates his Mirror Force, destroying all the tap position monsters the opponent controls. The effect of Gygus still activates since it's triggered by any kind of destruction, and so it is returned back to the field, now with 2,000 extra attack points. Unfortunately for Soldier, it's unable to attack again due to its other detrimental effect that makes it so it can't attack the same turn it's resurrected. So, Soldier ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. Yugi, without even bothering to switch his Gazelle into defense, ends his turn. It's Orichalcos Soldier's turn. Due to Gygus' effect, his draw phase is skipped. Orichalcos Gygus attacks and destroys Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts. Orichalcos Soldier ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. This is a perfect draw because Obnoxious Celtic Guardian has the ability that no monster with 1900 or more attack can destroy it in battle. What an incredible card to get. Just summon this monster into face-up defense, because well, you could set it face down, face-up defense. If it's attacked into, it won't die. This is an unbeatable board for the opponents. This is a great play. The only way this could go wrong is, I don't know, if you summon this monster into face-up attack. Despite summoning into face-up defense never being an issue until right now, Yugi, for some reason, summons Obnoxious Celtic Guardian into attack and ends his turn. It's the Orichalcos Soldier's turn, and he actually gets the draw here again, but it must be another dead card because now he has 6 dead and useless cards in his hand that he will never activate for the rest of this duel. It's ridiculous. Orichalcos Gygus attacks Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. Obnoxious Celtic Guardian is not destroyed by the battle, but Yugi still takes the damage. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Kuriboh. I guess now at least he can switch his monster into defense. Maybe he's thinking of a card he can have with... What's that? He's ended his turn without yet again switching his monster into defense. What is this duel? If everybody's going to act wacky in this duel, then I'm going to act wacky for this duel analysis then. It's the Orichalcos Soldier's turn and the second last turn of the duel. He draws and gets a now 7th dead card for his hand. He enters his battle phase and attacks Yugi's Obnoxious Celtic Guardian again. If this attack is successful, Yugi will lose the duel. The attack is successful, however, Yugi discards Kuriboh so that he doesn't take any battle damage. Obnoxious Celtic Guardian isn't destroyed thanks to its effect. It's Yugi's turn, and the very last turn of the duel. Instead of drawing, we get some absolute insanity as an old man fights off a bunch of Yugioh cards while trying to give Yugi the Eye of Timaeus. He gets struck by lightning and dies. His granddaughter and her dog then take over, trying to get the card to Yugi, but the dog is struck by lightning and dies. Finally, the small child is struck by lightning and dies, but not before she finally succeeds in giving Yugi his ultimate top deck card of all time. I assume he just puts that on the top of his deck. Everybody's being wacky in this duel, so it must be fine. He draws and gets, oh my god, it's the Eye of Timaeus. He tributes Obnoxious Celtic Guardian to summon his Dark Magician Girl from his hand. He activates the Eye of Timaeus, fusing it with the Dark Magician Girl to summon Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight. Yugi then activates Excalibur, equipping it to Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight. This card doubles the equipped monster's attack, but makes it so you can't draw during your draw phases, and if a card is drawn, this card destroys itself. And so, with a 5200 attack, Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight attacks and destroys Orichalcos Gygus, dealing enough damage to win the duel. The duel begins and Valon goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Psychic Armor Head, Magnet Armor, the Seal of Orichalcos, and 3 mysterious cards. Valon summons his Psychic Armor Head into attack. Now, Psychic Armor Head is Valon's ace monster, basically. It facilitates everything else in his deck, and as such, it has a lot of abilities. And these are all of them. Instead of conducting the draw phase, instead you can add an armor monster from your deck to your hand. During the standby phase, if this card is in the grave, you can summon it to the field into attack. If there are 2 or more armor monsters on the field, Valon can choose the opponent's attack target. Only 1 armor monster can attack per turn. The best way to visualize the armor monsters is obviously in the duel, they all start equipping themselves to Valon. So you've got to start thinking of them as like a single entity. So despite the fact I have 3 monsters on the field, when I'm being attacked, if my head's being attacked, I can still defend with my arm or my other arm, whatever it is, obviously. Same with attacking. I can only attack once, which is going to be with one arm, my other arm, or my head or something. You can't just attack with like everything at the same time. So that's the best way to visualize it, I guess. With all that in mind, Valon ends his turn here. It's Duke's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Orgoth the Relentless, Summon Dice, and 4 mysterious cards. Duke starts by activating his Summon Dice spell. By paying 1000 life points, he can now roll a die, and depending on the result, 1 of 3 effects will occur. If he rolls a 1 or a 2, he gets to special summon up to 2 level 4 or lower monsters in his hand. If he rolls a 3 or a 4, he can special summon a monster from his grave. If he rolls a 5 or a 6, he can special summon a level 5 or higher monster in his hand. Duke dungeon dice rolls, I just mean regular dice rolls, and gets a 6. So he can summon a high level monster in his hand. He summons his boss monster, Orgoth the Relentless. Since the battle phase is not yet available, Duke ends his turn here. It's Rebecca's turn, and she draws. Her opening hand consists of Luster Dragon number 2, Rope of Life, and 3 mysterious cards. Rebecca summons her Luster Dragon into attack and then sets her Rope of Life face down. Unable to enter the battle phase yet, she ends her turn here. It's back to Valon, and just before he draws, he activates the effect of his Psychic Armor Head, which allows it to, instead of conducting his draw phase, add an armor monster to his hand instead. He forgoes his draw phase to add Double Cloth Armor. He tributes his Psychic Armor Head to summon it to the field. Now, while this card is on the field, it is unable to declare an attack. However, if an opponent's monster attacks it, the opponent will take damage equal to half the attack of their monster, then both of these battling monsters will be destroyed. Valon sets his Magnet Armor face down and ends his turn. It's Duke's turn, and the anti-penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Adamantine Sword Revival. Anti-penultimate, third from last. I have penultimate and final on this t-shirt, but not anti-penultimate. Maybe we'll make one in the future, who knows. Duke immediately sets Adamantine Sword Revival face down and then moves into his battle phase. Valon, at this point I might add, has completely revealed the effect of his monster. He's been completely honest and said, this is what my monster can do, so if you attack into it, your monster will be destroyed and you'll take damage, but you will get rid of my monster. Is it worth it? It's completely up to you. Why did he reveal his monster's effects? Because Rebecca and Duke had no idea about these armor cards, so they didn't know what they could do. He did it because he's just uber confident in himself in this duel, and he should be, because no matter what they would have done, they probably wouldn't be able to deal with this card. Duke, willing to take some damage and lose his monster just to get rid of Double Cloth Armor, he declares an attack with his Orgoth. Double Cloth Armor's effect activates, destroying both itself and Orgoth. Duke takes half of Orgoth's attack as damage. With no more plays, despite having 4 mysterious cards in his hand, Duke ends his turn. Really? Nothing with 4 cards in your hand? You can't even summon like a small monster, like a bat or something, just attack into that monster. Obviously, Valon has a backup plan if that's the case, which we'll talk about later, but nothing really. It's Rebecca's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. She draws and gets Mirror Force. She sets it face down immediately. She then tributes her Luster Dragon to summon Luster Dragon number 2. She moves into a battle phase and uses Luster Dragon number 2 to attack Valon directly. However, Valon activates his Magnet Armor, which lets him summon an armor monster in his grave to his side of the field. He summons back his Double Cloth Armor. It is unclear whether a replay occurs here and Rebecca chooses to attack, or Double Cloth Armor forces Luster Dragon to attack it. Rebecca's initial reaction is horror after a monster is destroyed, but she does have a backup plan specifically for when her monster is destroyed. Detrimentally, however, Magnet Armor's negative ability destroys the monster it summons during the end of the turn. So Rebecca technically could have chosen not to attack. Regardless, the effect of Double Cloth Armor activates again, destroying itself and the battling monster. Rebecca then takes half her monster's attack as damage. However, Duke and Rebecca aren't done. Since her monster was just sent to the grave, she can activate her set Rope of Life, which now, by discarding her entire hand, she can bring back her monster that was just destroyed with an extra 800 attack. She discards her mysterious hand of 3 to summon back Luster Dragon number 2 with 3200 attack. Seeing Valon is wide open, Duke follows up this play by activating his Adamantite Sword Revival. With this card's effect, when a dragon is summoned from the grave, it immediately tributes that monster in order to summon Diamond Head Dragon from his deck under the control of the tributed monster's owner. Duke tributes Rebecca's Luster Dragon number 2 and summons his Diamond Head Dragon to Rebecca's field. Due to Diamond Head's effect, it sets its attack points to the amount of attack points the monster's tributed for its summon had, plus an extra 1,000. So, with 4,200 attack, Rebecca attacks the wide open Valon directly and wins the duel. So, could Valon have won this? Wait, no, that's not how the duel went. Oh, that's right. The detrimental effect of Adamantite's Sword Revival makes it so you can't attack on the turn that Diamond Head Dragon is summoned. So, why? Since Diamond Head Dragon can't attack the turn it's summoned, Rebecca is forced to end her turn here. Right, I need to moan about this because this was an awful play to make. First of all, Adamantite Sword Revival is a horrifically specific card that shouldn't be in Duke's deck. Does Duke play that many Dragon-type monsters? Has he just put it in the deck because he knows he's playing with Rebecca? It's just, why is he playing this card? He shouldn't have used this card as well because A, Rebecca could have dealt a respectable 3,200 damage without it just now. Just don't use this card and then Rebecca can attack with 3,200 straight to the face. Like, that seems so much better. And B, the reason why you should let Rebecca do that is because Valon has been punishing opponents having big monsters on their field. Maybe making an even bigger monster might not be the right play to make because he's literally destroyed 2 cards so far with that cloth ability and they've done half the damage back to them. Which is, ironically, the way they're going to lose in a minute. They're going to take damage due to them having a big monster on the field. So I just think it's ridiculous. It's playing into your opponent's win condition. It was stupid. Fun fact, there was hypothetically a way that Duke and Rebecca could have won this duel. If in those 7 mysterious cards they share between them, they could have summoned out 2 to 3 more monsters, well, they probably would have won. How would this happen? Well, if we go back to Duke's turn, just say one of his mysterious cards was a monster, something like Bat. He could have used Bat to attack Double Cloth Armor. Both get destroyed, Duke takes a little bit of damage, but then he could go into a second attack with Orgoth. Valon uses his Magnet Armor, he tanks the second attack. We move to Rebecca's turn, now she doesn't have to deal with any interference. So all she has to do is get out an extra 2,100 attack points to go for game. This could have been achieved had she swapped that horrific trap for something like Call of the Haunted, tribute Luster Dragon, normal summon Luster Dragon number 2, bring back Luster Dragon, attack for game. This also could have applied for Duke if he had gotten 1 more monster on the field and dealt just a little bit of damage. Rebecca could have gone for the game with Luster Dragon number 2. Now, obviously, this is all coulda, woulda, shoulda, but with 7 cards in their hand, like nothing really. Anyway, getting back to the duel. It's Valon's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Armored Gravitation. On Valon's standby phase, the effect of Psychic Armor Head activates in the grave, which summons itself to the field. Valon activates his Armored Gravitation, which lets him special summon up to 4 level 4 or lower armor monsters in face-up attack from his deck. However, at the end of the turn, they are sent to the grave. Valon summons his Big Bang Blow, Trap Buster, Overboost, and Active Guard. These cards all equip themselves to Valon. Each of these cards has an archetypal effect that states only 1 armor monster can attack per turn, and Valon can choose the attack targets of the opponent's attacks. Small thing, but Valon always summons like 2 hand pieces and 2 leg pieces and 1 head piece. What would happen if he summoned 3 hand pieces and just 1 leg piece? Would he have to have like a 3rd arm and no protection on his leg? Is that how it would be? That'd be kind of cool. I'd be curious to see what happened if he did something like that. Anyway, the individual abilities of these armor monsters are: for Big Bang Blow, if this card is destroyed by battle while you control 2 or more monsters, inflict damage to each player equal to the total attack of the monsters they control, then destroy all monsters on the field. Trap Buster, negate the effects of opponents' trap cards that target 1 armor monster or would destroy 2 or more monsters on the field. Overboost, armor monsters can attack directly, but if they do using this effect, this card is destroyed during the end phase. Active Guard. During either player's turn, quick effect, you can reduce the damage you take to 0 until the end of the turn. Destroy this card at the end of the turn if you use this effect. So with all these effects on his field, Valon goes for game. He orders his Big Bang Blow to be his one and only attack this turn. He attacks Diamond Head Dragon. Rebecca, fearing what ability this card has, activates her set Mirror Force. She attempts to destroy all 5 of the attack position armor monsters. However, Valon uses his Trapbuster's effect to negate the effect of Mirror Force since it would destroy 2 or more monsters. The attack continues. Big Bang Blow with 0 attack is destroyed in its battle with Diamond Head Dragon. Before Valon would take 4,200 battle damage, he uses the quick effect of Active Guard to prevent any damage to himself until the end of the turn. So he takes no damage. Since Big Bang Blow was destroyed, its effect activates. Damage is now dealt to all players equal to the combined attack of the monsters on the field. Duke, Rebecca, and Valon take 4,200 damage. Valon, however, takes no damage due to Active Guard. Big Bang Blow wraps up the duel by destroying all monsters on the field. Duke and Rebecca's life points drop to 0. Valon wins the duel. The duel begins and Alister goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Science Soldier, KC-1 Creighton, Kinetic Soldier, Junk Dealer, Soldier Revolt, and Tank Corps. Alister summons his Science Soldier into defense. He ends his turn. Right off the bat, Alister is misplaying. He could have won. He should have also set his Tank Corps trap face down. This is because on his next turn, he can go straight onto the offensive. Summon his KC-1 Creighton, activate Tank Corps, get a 3k monster, destroy X-Head Cannon. Next turn, all Kaiba can do is summon a monster into defense. Alister's turn, he draws the Seal of Orichalcos, he plays it, he summons his Kinetic Soldier, switches the 3 tank tokens into attack, destroy Kaiba's only defense monster with KC-1, attack directly with the Seal boosted tank tokens, attack directly with a Kinetic Soldier, that's 1300, 1300, 1300, 1850, and with that, that's game. Sorry, Alister, but you could have won this duel almost immediately by having a good offense. Misplay again, Alister. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of X-Head Cannon, Z Metal Tank, Judge Man, and 3 mysterious cards. 2 of these cards get discarded as a cost, and we never find out what they actually are, and one of them gets set face down, so it's either a spell or trap, but never gets activated for multiple turns, so it must be not very good or unable to be played. So if I had to make an educated guess on what they are, I'm going to go with Hayo, Zanryu, Sword Stalker, and Crush Card Virus. Kaiba summons his X-Head Cannon into attack. He attacks and destroys Alister's Science Soldier. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Cyber Soldier of Dark World. He summons it into defense and then sets Tank Corps face down. Alister ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Y Dragon Head. He summons it and then moves straight into his battle phase. He orders Y Dragon Head to destroy Cyber Soldier of Dark World. X-Head Cannon then attacks Alister directly. Alister takes the first damage of the duel. Kaiba sets a mysterious card, possibly Crush Card Virus face down, and then ends his turn. It's back to Alister, and he draws the Seal of Orichalcos. He activates it. We should know this card's effect off by heart now, but all monsters he controls gain 500 attack. He can summon monsters into the Spell and Trap zone, and monsters in the Spell and Trap zone can't be attacked if there's a monster in the main monster zone. And of course, whoever loses this duel will lose their soul. Alister summons his KC-1 Creighton. This card has the effect to gain 500 attack for every tank token on the field. With this in mind, Alister activates his set, Tank Corps. Now, by targeting a KC-1 Creighton, he can special summon 3 tank tokens into defense. With 3 tokens on the field, KC-1 gains 1500 attack. Alister uses his boosted monster to attack and destroy Y Dragon Head. Alister sets Soldier Revolt face down and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Monster Reborn. He activates it to bring back Y Dragon Head from his grave. He then summons Z Metal Tank. With X, Y, and Z on the field, he banishes all 3 to contact fuse his XYZ Dragon Cannon. He activates its effect, which lets him discard a card to destroy any card on the field. He discards his Judge Man, Sword Stalker, and Hayo Zanryu to destroy the 3 tank tokens. With 3 less tokens on the field, KC-1's attack is lowered. Kaiba enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys it. With no further plays, Kaiba ends his turn. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Sky Union. With all the pieces in place, Alister activates his Junk Dealer. This lets him select up to 2 machine type or warrior type monsters in his grave and summon them with half of their original attack. Also, the monsters summoned cannot attack or be tributed for a tribute summon this turn. Alister brings back Science Soldier and Cyber Soldier of Dark World. He then summons his final soldier monster, Kinetic Soldier. Now, with these 3 hyper-specific monsters on the field, he activates Soldier Revolt. Since Science Soldier, Cyber Soldier of Dark World, and Kinetic Soldier are all on his side of the field, he can now send all cards in Kaiba's hand and on his side of the field to the grave. Since Kaiba's hand was already empty, he only sends XYZ Dragon Cannon and the set Crush Card Virus to the grave. Luckily for Kaiba, Alister can't declare an attack the turn he uses Soldier Revolt. Alister wraps up his play by activating Sky Union. He tributes 3 monsters on his side of the field to special summon an Air Fortress Ziggurat from his deck. Thanks to Ziggurat's effect, it is unaffected by the effects of opponent's spells and traps. Not only that, but during each of Alister's end phases, a robot token is summoned to the field into defense. While a robot token is on the field, Kaiba cannot select another monster as an attack target except it. Alister ends his turn, and as he does, a robot token is summoned to the field. Right! A few things with this turn. 1. Alister just cost himself the duel, naturally. Had he done one thing different, he would have won on his next turn. I'll get to it when we get to it, but that's coming up. It was this turn that was the make or break moment. 2, yet again, not utilizing the back row ability of the Seal of Orichalcos is going to cost him the duel here. Why? Well, because had he summoned the robot token into the back row, aka the spell and trap zones, and summoned his Ziggurat into the front row, the main monster zones, now there would literally be no way Kaiba can attack the tokens or Ziggurat. Since monsters in the back row can't be attacked if there is a monster in front of them, and Ziggurat can't be attacked because you can only attack the tokens, which can't be attacked because they're in the back row, so it's like a perfect lock. You are completely immune from any kind of battling, and with this ability, literally, Alister could have just sat on his monster until he got whatever he wanted, and then just go for game. It's a huge misplay yet again. I can't see any reasons why this play wouldn't be allowed. They're all on the field. It's not like they're off the field or anything like that. So yeah, a huge misplay again from Alister. What are you doing, bro? Just win these duels. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Pot of Greed. With nothing else in his hand, he activates Pot of Greed to draw 2 new cards. He gets Soul Exchange and Magical Trick Mirror. He sets Magical Trick Mirror face down and ends his turn. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Toy Robot Box. He immediately enters his battle phase and orders Air Fortress Ziggurat to attack Kaiba directly. Kaiba in response activates his set Magical Trick Mirror. This card lets Kaiba use a spell in the opponent's graveyard when he is being attacked. He activates Alister's Junk Dealer. Now Kaiba can special summon up to 2 machines or warriors, but they must be summoned into attack with their attack points halved. Since XYZ Dragon Cannon can't be summoned from the graveyard due to its detrimental effect, X, Y, and Z are also banished, plus they wouldn't have saved him here, the only monster he can summon that will keep himself in the duel is Judgeman. He summons it to the field. Its 2200 attack points are cut in half. A replay occurs and Ziggurat attacks it. Kaiba survives by the skin of his teeth. Alister ends his turn, and as he does, Air Fortress Ziggurat summons a second robot token. And here it is, yes, Alister could have won this turn if only he would have done 100 more damage earlier in the duel. But how could he have done that? Where could we got this 100 damage from? Well, I'm going to tell you. Let's go back in time, back to Alister's last turn. He's just brought back his 2 warriors with Junk Dealer. He summons his Kinetic Soldier. Now, instead of using the board wipe card and losing the ability to battle, why not just immediately tribute all 3 monsters for Sky Union, then summon Ziggurat. Attack and destroy XYZ, dealing 200 damage to Kaiba. And with that, we're done. Next turn, Kaiba plays Pot of Greed, sets Magical Trick Mirror face down, ends his turn. Alister's turn, attacks Kaiba directly. Kaiba uses Magical Trick Mirror on Alister's Junk Dealer. He brings back Judgeman. Now, with 200 less life points, Kaiba loses the duel here. In Alister's defense, this one is kind of a hindsight play. In any other situation, I would be saying 200 damage over destroying that 1 back row card. You would much rather destroy that back row than do 200 damage. However, Ziggurat is completely immune to spells and traps, so the back row wasn't too much of an issue. So doing a bit more damage does seem like a more beneficial thing to have. And just regardless of that, he shouldn't be playing that weird board wipe and hand rip card because it's just way too specific. I can't believe he managed to get all 3 of those random cards onto his field to pull it off. Any other situation, just get rid of those. Keep the Ziggurat card, it seems okay. So, yep, Alister could have won yet again. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Blue Eyes White Dragon. He activates Soul Exchange. This card lets him use Alister's monsters for tributes. Since he can't use Air Fortress due to its spell and trap immunity, he uses the 2 robot tokens instead to summon Blue Eyes White Dragon. With no further plays, Kaiba ends his turn. It's Alister's turn, and he draws Emergency Provisions. Unable to get over Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon since they both share the same attack points, he sets Toy Robot Box face down and ends his turn. As the turn ends, Ziggurat summons a robot token into defense. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Tyrant Wing. He orders Blue Eyes White Dragon to attack and destroy Alister's robot token. This moment here proves that the robot token is summoned into a main monster zone and not the back row, by the way, so I just thought I'd point that out. Kaiba sets his Tyrant Wing face down and ends his turn. It's Alister's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel, available now in stores. He draws and gets Spell Canceller. He activates his face down Toy Robot Box to discard a card to special summon another 3 robot tokens in defense. He discards Emergency Provisions to summon 3 robot tokens. He tributes one of them to summon Spell Canceller. Due to this card's effect, while it remains on the field, spell cards cannot be activated. Alister moves into his battle phase and orders Air Fortress Ziggurat to attack and destroy Blue Eyes White Dragon. The plan: crash the 2 monsters together, then attack directly and win the duel. But Kaiba activates his Tyrant Wing. This trap equips itself to Blue Eyes White Dragon and increases its attack by 400. Not only that, but it also allows Blue Eyes White Dragon to attack each monster the opponent controls once each. Unable to call off the attack, Blue Eyes White Dragon destroys Air Fortress Ziggurat. It's at this point the plane they are on begins to hurtle towards the Earth. Alister, in a little bit of a bitch move, decides to stall. He's like, I actually don't really care about when they stall. I just kind of wouldn't mind just killing you, so I'm just not going to end my turn. Plane will crash. That's a win for me. And here is where Kaiba inflicts real-life piercing damage. Kaiba tells Alister that if he was in the situation that Alister and his younger brother were in, where Alister's younger brother got blown up by a tank, he says that I wouldn't have let my brother get blown up by a tank. If I was in your situation, I would have saved my brother because you're trash. Which, whew, that's harsh. Alister's response is like, no way, you wouldn't be able to do that. And Kaiba says, I'll prove it to you. I bet you I can save my brother right now by beating you on this next turn. And so Alister says, all right, bet, and ends his turn. And so it's Kaiba's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets the Fang of Critias. He activates its effect to fuse with Tyrant Wing. It becomes Tyrant Burst Dragon. It's unknown if Tyrant Burst Dragon has any attack points in the anime because they're never shown, but it doesn't really matter too much because immediately Kaiba fuses this monster with his Blue Eyes White Dragon. By merging the two, he creates Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, a dragon monster with 3400 attack and the ability to attack every monster the opponent controls once each. In a minute. We've just done a massive full circle. We originally had a Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with a card that increased the attack of Blue Eyes White Dragon to 3400, and it had the ability to attack every card that Alister controlled. And we've now just made a monster with 3400 attack that can attack every monster the opponent controls? What? I'll talk about it a bit later, but for now, Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon attacks and destroys Alister's 2 robot tokens, followed by Spell Canceller. Alister's life points drop to 0, Kaiba wins the duel, and Alister's soul is taken. The duel begins and Joey goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Alligator's Sword, Battle Warrior, Brigadier of Landstar, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Monster Reborn, and a mysterious card. This card will never be seen and never be used throughout the entirety of the duel. I'll let you guys pick in the comment section below. Name me a Joey card, which would be a brick throughout the entire duel. Joey starts by summoning his Alligator Sword into attack. He then ends his turn. It's Valon's turn, and he draws
His opening hand consists of Psychic Armor Head, Armored Gravitation, Full Armor Gravitation, My Body as a Shield, Kishido Spirit, and Extinction Fist. It's important for me to bring up here Valon's dueling philosophy, as it dictates the way that he plays the game. Valon's philosophy is attack. Always attack. The reason for this is explained in some flashbacks that we see throughout this duel. It's actually quite sad. But the takeaway from this is, if you ever think, why doesn't he play more defensive? This is the reason. Valon starts by summoning his Psychic Armor Head to the field. This monster has a new type of ability, not seen since in the Yu-Gi-Oh game. Abilities, by the way, if you look on a card, it's the thing that's normally next to like normal or effect monster. So you can have things like a flip, a tune, a Gemini, and in this case, an armor monster. Armor ability monsters all share two specific effects. One is that only one armor monster can attack per turn. And two, if an armor monster is attacked while there is another one on the field, the owner can choose which one is attacked. To explain why they have those effects, it is actually shown perfectly in the anime. Because the armor cards equip to the user, essentially making all of the cards on the field act as one monster. So if you think about it like that, that is the reason why only one monster can attack per turn. You put all the armor on yourself, you can only attack with one fist, one leg, one body, I don't know, whatever you want to go for. The same applies for redirecting attacks. The reason any armor monster can take the hit is my right arm is being attacked, whatever armor monster is on this one, I'll just defend with my left arm instead, or my head if I really wanted to. So, keep that in mind for the rest of the duel. Regardless, Valon activates the spell card Armored Gravitation. Due to its effect, he can summon 4 level 4 armor monsters in his deck straight to the field. However, at the end of the turn, they are sent to the graveyard. Valon summons his Trap Buster, his Big Bang Blow, his Over Boost, and Active Guard. All of the armor monsters attached to Valon. Now, each of these armor monsters has a unique ability. Valon won't reveal this, so Joey doesn't know the entire time until they're revealed. However, you've got me. I'm going to tell you what the effects are right now so you know what Joey has to deal with. Psychic Armor Head. This card cannot attack. During each of Valon's draw phases, instead of drawing, he can add an armor monster from his deck to his hand, instead of drawing a card. If this card is in the graveyard during Valon's standby phase, it special summons itself back to the field. Unusually, Valon never uses this ability to add a specific armor monster to his hand instead of drawing, which is kind of odd. This might have changed the outcome of the duel, but it's just weird that he never used that effect. Trap Buster. Negate the effects of trap cards that target armor monsters or that would destroy 2 or more armor monsters on the field. Big Bang Blow. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard while you control 2 or more monsters, inflict damage to each player equal to the total attack of each monster they controlled. After that, destroy all monsters on the field. Overboost. Armor monsters you control can attack your opponent directly. If an armor monster attacks your opponent directly with this effect, destroy this card during the end phase. Active Guard. If you would take damage while this monster is on the field, you take no damage for the rest of this turn, even if this monster leaves the field. If you use this effect, destroy this card during the end phase. Now, with all that in mind, Valon enters his battle phase and chooses for his 1 attack per turn to go to Big Bang Blow. It attacks Alligator's Sword. Since Big Bang Blow has 0 attack points, it is destroyed. But the continuous effect of Active Guard makes it so that Valon takes no battle damage from that attack. Following this, Big Bang Blow's effect activates. Since it was destroyed in battle, while Valon controls at least 2 armor monsters, all monsters on the field are destroyed. And then damage is dealt to both players equal to the combined attack of the destroyed monsters they control. All monsters on the field are destroyed. But since Active Guard's effect was already activated and is still live, Valon takes no effect damage from his armor monsters being destroyed. However, the same can't be said for Joey's Alligator's Sword. Joey takes the first damage of the duel. Valon ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Marauding Captain. He summons it to the field. As he does, its effect activates, which lets him special summon another level 4 monster from his hand. He summons Battle Warrior. With nothing to defend himself, Joey uses both of his monsters to attack Valon directly. Both attacks are successful. With no further plays, Joey ends his turn. Now I'm going to mention this now because it's quite a big deal. Joey has Monster Reborn in his hand. He can activate Monster Reborn, bring back an alligator sword, could have done another 1500 damage, would have been nice. Or he could have activated Monster Reborn to steal Valon's Psychic Armor head. This would mean Valon would never be able to do his plays because he wouldn't be able to get his monster back from the graveyard. At this point in the duel, Joey doesn't know its effect, so that's absolutely fine that he didn't steal it this turn. Luckily for Valon, Joey will never get the opportunity to use Monster Reborn because by the time he gets back in the grave, Joey has to use Monster Reborn to make a counter attack. So luckily for Valon, he never sends that monster to the grave in between now and when he uses Monster Reborn. It's back to Valon, and he draws the Seal of Orichalcos. The standby phase occurs and Psychic Armor Head's effect is revealed. Now, Valon activates the Seal of Orichalcos. All of Valon's monsters will gain 500 attack. He can use his spell and trap zones as monster zones to summon extra monsters. Armor monsters will now inflict physical damage to the opposing player from attacks. And of course, whoever loses this duel will now lose their soul. Back on the offensive, Valon plays the spell Full Armor Gravitation. This lets Valon draw 10 cards. If any of those cards are armor monsters, he can summon them straight to the field in the order that they are drawn. The remaining cards are then banished. In order of the cards he draws, Valon summons Burning Knuckle, Jet Gauntlet, Overboost, Active Guard, Buster Knuckle, and Advanced Shield. The 4 remaining cards Valon drew are never revealed, and are banished from the game. All of the armor monsters equipped to Valon. And since we have some new armor monsters, let's go through their unique effects. Burning Knuckle. This card gains 200 attack for each face-up armor monster you control. If this card attacks and is destroyed by battle, Valon can select one face-up monster on the field and have it lose attack equal to Burning Knuckle's attack. Jet Gauntlet. If this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy both monsters at the start of the damage step without damage calculation. Buster Knuckle. This card gains 200 attack for each face-up armor monster you control. This card can inflict piercing battle damage. Advanced Shield. If you control no face-up armor monsters, you cannot summon this card. This card cannot declare an attack. Basically, Advanced Shield does nothing. That might have been a decent one to cut. Finally, there's Overboost and Active Guard. However, these are second copies, so you should remember what they do. And just as a reminder, the Seal of Orichalcos is on the field, so this is how Valon has 7 armor monsters on the field. Valon enters his battle phase and attacks with Buster Knuckle, which has 1900 attack. Due to Marauding Captain's effect, Valon is forced to attack it, and so Marauding Captain is destroyed by the battle. Joey takes life point damage. Since only one armor monster can attack per turn, Valon ends his turn here. Was there any alternative plays that Valon could have made this turn? Well, with Overboost on the field, he could have attacked directly. However, I think getting rid of some of Joey's field resources was the smarter move on paper to make, so it's no misplay from Valon here. And if Valon would have done that, Overboost would have been destroyed at the end of the battle, and that would have meant that his monster would be weaker on the next turn, so I think this play was fine. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Jinzo. Joey immediately tributes his Battle Warrior to summon it. He then enters his battle phase and attacks Psychic Armor Head. However, Valon redirects the attack to Buster Knuckle. Buster Knuckle is destroyed, and Valon takes damage. Joey ends his turn. And here is where we had the biggest misplay of the entire duel. Valon could have won. Had Valon redirected the attack to instead be against Jet Gauntlet, by doing that, both monsters would have been destroyed in the battle before damage calculation. Joey would then be wide open for a direct attack on Valon's next turn. That attack would leave Joey with 100 life points left. And then on Valon's next turn, he could simply use his Overboost to attack Joey directly and win the duel. Why didn't Valon do this? Because he would have won, plain and simple. So unfortunately, Valon, you could have won this duel, Big misplay for you. It's back to Valon, and he draws Data Brain. Valon enters his battle phase and attacks Jinzo with Burning Knuckle. With only 1700 attack, Burning Knuckle is destroyed in the battle, and Valon takes battle damage again. However, since Burning Knuckle was destroyed whilst attacking, its second effect activates, which reduces the attack of Jinzo by the attack of the monster. Now, Jinzo only has 700 attack, and Valon ends his turn. Valon is now making things even worse for himself. He's just gone from a missed game opportunity to putting himself in an even worse position. Oh, Jinzo's attack is at 700 now? Well, yet again, you had the opportunity to destroy it with Jet Gauntlet. Had he done that, yet again, Joey would have nothing on the field. Next turn, he's going to use that Jinzo to get rid of another one of Valon's cards. So ultimately, Valon used 2 cards to get rid of 1 card, when he could have just used 1 card and taken the advantage. And honestly, that's not even the worst part. You might have forgotten, but Valon has My Body as a Shield in his hand. That card requires 1500 life points to activate its effect. Guess what Valon has just done with this play? He's reduced his life points under 1500, so that means Valon now has a dead card in his hand. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Rocket Warrior. He summons it to the field and moves straight into his battle phase. Joey starts by attacking with Rocket Warrior, targeting Valon's Overboost. However, the attack is redirected to Advanced Shield. Since both share 1500 attack, both would be destroyed. However, thanks to Rocket Warrior's effect, it can't be destroyed in battle, and so remains on the field, while Advanced Shield goes to the grave. Next, Jinzo attacks, targeting Jet Gauntlet. Valon lets this attack continue, and thanks to Jet Gauntlet's effect, both monsters are destroyed before damage calculation can occur. Joey ends his turn. The last time I'll say it, Valon, you should have used that effect 2 turns ago to get rid of that Jinzo. So bad. It's Valon's turn, and he draws Buster Pile. He summons it to the field. Its effect is this card cannot be destroyed in battle. You take no battle damage from battles involving this card. If this card attacks an opponent's monster, destroy that monster and inflict 500 damage to the opponent. With that in mind, Valon uses Buster Pile to attack Rocket Warrior. The attack is successful, and Buster Pile destroys Rocket Warrior, dealing 500 effect damage. Next, Valon moves into his main phase 2 and activates his equip spell, Data Brain, equipping it to his Psychic Armor Head. Now, if Psychic Armor Head is destroyed by a spell card, during the following turn, he can activate that spell as if it was his own. However, it is removed from the field at the end of that turn. Keep in mind though, Joey does not know this, and so Valon ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws the legendary dragon card, the Claw of Hermos. Joey starts by summoning his Brigadier of Landstar. He then activates his Monster Reborn to bring back Rocket Warrior. With all the pieces in place, Joey plays Claw of Hermos, merging it with Rocket Warrior. Together, they form the equip spell, Rocket Hermos Cannon. Joey equips it to his Brigadier of Landstar. He immediately activates its effect, which destroys all monsters the opponent controls, and then inflicts damage to the opponent equal to the combined attack of all of those monsters. Luckily, since Valon has Active Guard on the field, he uses its effect to negate the damage and prevent any further damage for the rest of the turn. Meaning, while Valon's field is still completely destroyed, he takes no damage. And since Psychic Armor Head was destroyed via a spell card, Active Brain's effect is now live in the graveyard. Now I'm going to have to jump in real quick here and explain how Active Guard was able to negate damage after it was blown up. This is really crucial to explain because the same thing is going to happen later, but Active Guard is not going to be able to negate the damage in that scenario, but it did in this one. So why is that? Well, the reason is Rocket Hermos' effect states you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls and inflict damage to your opponent equal to the blah blah blah. Note that there is no separation between the destruction and the damaging. These two things pretty much happen simultaneously, which means the explosion effect is pretty much a damaging effect at the same time, which means Active Guard can activate just in time. To better understand this, later in the duel, Joey's going to activate Big Bang Dragon Blow. Its effect instead states, destroy all monsters your opponent controls, full stop, then you can inflict damage to your opponent. That full stop and the use of the word then implies this thing happens first, and if that thing happens, you then do this thing. Keep in mind, I'm not an expert on rulings, so if I didn't explain that well, please sound off in the comments, but I think I've done an okay job. Okay? Okay. Due to Joey's use of Rocket Hermo's cannon, he's unable to declare an attack this turn. Regardless anyway, Valon still can't take any damage due to Active Guard's effect, and so Joey ends his turn. It's Valon's turn, and he draws Burning Knuckle. The standby phase occurs and Psychic Armor Head special summons itself back to the field. Valon then normal summons Burning Knuckle. Due to its effect, it gains 200 attack for each of Valon's armor monsters. Since there's only 2, its attack is increased to 900. Now, Valon activates the effect of his Data Brain in the grave. He activates the spell card that destroyed his monster, which just so happens to be Rocket Hermo's Cannon. He equips it to Burning Knuckle. Valon activates its effect. With no way to stop it, Joey's field is completely destroyed, and at the same time, he takes damage equal to his monster's attack. This attack does some serious physical trauma to Joey. He's knocked down, but of course, our man Joey is still able to stand. Valon, unable to attack directly due to the use of Rocket Hermo's cannon, ends his turn. As he does, the effect of Data Brain ends, and Rocket Hermo's cannon is removed from the field. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Aura Armor. He sets it face down and ends his turn. It's Valon's turn, and he draws Black Hole Shield. He summons it to the field. Its effect is when another face-up armor monster you control is selected as an attack target, you contribute this card, and if you do, this turn, that monster cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage from battles involving that monster. Valon moves into his battle phase and uses Burning Knuckle to attack directly. However, Joey activates his set Aura Armor. Since Joey was attacked directly with less than 2,000 life points, this trap negates the direct attack. This trap card is then summoned to the field as a level 4 Earth Warrior armor ability monster with attack equal to the player's life points. However, on its summon, the owner must pay half their life points. With only 200 life points left now, Aura Armor's attack becomes 200. And of course, since this monster is also an armor monster, it equips itself onto Joey. With no more attacks left, Valon sets his Extinction Fist face down and ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Roll of Fate. He activates it. Due to its effect, he rolls a 6-sided die. He will then draw cards equal to the result. However, after drawing that many cards, that amount is also sent from the top of his deck to the graveyard. And so, Joey rolls a 4 and draws 4 new cards. 4 cards from the top of his deck are then sent to the grave. The 4 cards he gets are Red Eye's Transmigration, Take One Chance, Lord of the Red, and Scapegoat. Joey activates his ritual spell, Red Eye's Transmigration. He tributes his Red Eye's Black Dragon in his hand and 1 warrior monster on the field, which he chooses to be Aura Armor. By sending these both to the graveyard, Joey can ritual summon his Lord of the Red, which of course is also revealed to be another armor ability monster. But let's be honest, it looks pretty badass. Joey moves into his battle phase and attacks Psychic Armor Head. However, Valon tributes Black Hole Shield in order to protect Psychic Armor Head from destruction and battle damage. Joey moves into his main phase 2 and sets his Scapegoat spell face down and ends his turn. It's Valon's turn, and he draws Monster Reborn. He activates it straight away, bringing back Buster Pile. With this card, Valon can deal 500 damage to Joey by simply attacking. However, in response to this play, Joey activates Scapegoat, which summons 4 sheep tokens to the field. Valon believes this is a foolish play because it won't save him. However, Joey reveals his Lord of the Red's effect. Since 2 spell cards have been activated within the same turn, Lord of the Red destroys all other monsters on the field. The play is successful, and Valon is forced to end his turn here. It's Joey's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Grave Robber. With an open field, Joey enters his battle phase and attacks Valon directly. However, Valon plays his set trap, Extinction Fist. It
Its effect makes it so that when a fusion or ritual monster attacks directly,
that monster is destroyed and the battle phase ends immediately. However, luckily for Joey, the materials used to summon that monster are then summoned to the field. Red Eye's Black Dragon and Aura Armor are resummoned to the field. And due to Aura Armor being summoned, yet again it halves Joey's life points, and its attack becomes equal to it. Joey moves into his main phase 2 and sets his take 1 chance and Grave Robber face down and ends his turn. It's Valon's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Phoenix Gravitation. The standby phase occurs, and yet again, Psychic Armor Head special summons itself back to the field. Valon then plays Phoenix Gravitation. Since Valon controls a Psychic Armor Head, he can now summon 4 armor monsters in his grave straight to the field. They will be destroyed during the end phase, but that doesn't matter, because Valon is going for game. He summons Burning Knuckle, Jet Gauntlet, Overboost, and Active Guard. Yet again, Valon is in a winning position. All he needs to do is attack using Overboost's direct attack ability, using Burning Knuckle, and he will win the duel.
However, Joey makes one final play.
He activates his set Grave Robber, which lets him steal any card in Valon's grave. He chooses to take Big Bang Blow. Joey then takes one of the biggest gambles he's ever done. He plays Take 1 Chance. This card lets Joey activate 1 card in his graveyard. However, the card he activates is completely at random.
With the astronomical odds stacked against him, and the only card he could draw that would save him being the Claw of Hermos,
he chooses a card, and the card he picks is the Claw of Hermos. Joey fuses the Claw of Hermos and Big Bang Blow together to make the equip spell Big Bang Dragon Blow, and equips it to his Aura Armor. Refusing to back down with his only attack philosophy, Valon meets Joey head-on in battle. Buster Knuckle attacks Aura Armor. However, Joey reveals Big Bang Dragon Blow's effect. During either player's turn, quick effect, he can tribute 1 Dragon-type monster he controls, and then destroy all monsters the opponent controls. Then, damage is dealt to the opponent equal to the combined attack of those monsters. Despite having Active Guard on the field, it is destroyed before it can have an opportunity to negate any effect. We've already covered this a little bit earlier in the duel. So that means Valon's field is completely destroyed, and his life points drop to 0. Valon and Joey share a tender moment, with Valon accepting Joey and finally understanding why Mai thinks so much of him. Valon's soul is taken due to the use of the Seal of Orichalcos, and with that, the duel is concluded. The rematch duel begins, and Mai goes first. She draws, and her opening hand consists of 2 copies of Cyber Harpy, Aero Nail, Monster Reborn, Amazoness Spellcaster, and Nightmare Tri-Mirror. Mai summons one of her Cyber Harpies to the field. She then ends her turn. Mai could have equipped the Aero Nails to a monster to give it a little bit of an attack boost, but that has a beneficial effect if there's another Harpy on the field, so it's fine that she waited. It's no misplay. It's Joey's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Blue Flame Swordsman, Scapegoat, Swordsman of Landstar, Vow of Tribe, Dark Dragon Ritual, and Guilford the Lightning. Now, this is really important to note. Joey is on death's door throughout this entire duel. Keep in mind, he has just finished his big, intense duel against Valon, where they were literally beating the crap out of each other, which I've actually made a video for right here. Check it out after this one. Due to this, from now to the very last moment of this duel, Joey will be circling the drain, just pretending that he's fine, despite the fact he can barely see, he can barely stand, and probably can't even think straight. I'll be honest, Mai doesn't get very many wins in the series, and it's hard to give Mai 100%. Oh, she won this duel. Kind of. I mean, Joey was dying throughout this entire duel, so it's hard to say. Plus, he's trying to save her throughout this entire duel as well, so it's a funny one. The series doesn't like to give Mai many wins, and this is another factor, unfortunately. Joey summons his Blue Flame Swordsman to the field in attack. He then ends his turn. Now, immediately, I want to shout misplay from this turn because, well, what Joey could have done was, with that 1800 attack Blue Flame Swordsman, attack into Mai's 1800 attack monster, crash them both get destroyed, but Blue Flame Swordsman will then special summon a Flame Swordsman from Joey's deck, so get attacked directly. This would reduce the amount of resources that Mai has and also deal damage. This is actually explained in the anime. Mai comments on this out of character move, and Joey responds by saying that, like how he did with Valon, he plans to use this duel to understand how Mai feels, and he hopes at the same time she will understand how he feels. So, with that clarified, it's Mai's turn, and she draws her third copy of Cyber Harpy. She summons it to the field and then activates Aero Nail, equipping it to Cyber Harpy. This increases its attack by 300 and makes it so that if it would go to the graveyard, it instead equips itself to another Harpy on the field instead. So, with the attack boosted Harpy Lady, she attacks and destroys Blue Flame Swordsman. Joey takes the first damage of the duel, but Blue Flame Swordsman's effect then kicks in. Since it was destroyed, it special summons a Flame Swordsman from Joey's deck or grave. Mai, not wanting to crash her Cyber Harpy, decides to end her turn by setting Nightmare Tri-Mirror face down. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Cybertech Alligator. He tributes Flame Swordsman to summon it. Joey moves into his battle phase and attacks and destroys the attack-boosted Cyber Harpy. Here, Aero Nail's effect is revealed, which equips itself to another Harpy Lady. Joey sets his Scapegoat face down and ends his turn. It's back to Mai, and she draws the Seal of Orichalcos. She activates it. With it on the field, she gains all of its beneficial effects. And now, whoever loses the duel will lose their soul. Mai summons her last Cyber Harpy to the field. She enters her battle phase and attacks and destroys Cybertech Alligator. She then attempts to attack directly, but Joey activates his set Scapegoat to summon 4 sheep tokens to defend himself. Hilariously, we get a repeat of their last duel. Mai uses her set Nightmare Tri-Mirror in response to Scapegoat to summon 4 Cyber Harpy copy tokens. She summons 2 into her main monster zones and 2 into her spell and trap zones. Look at that, she's learning not to clog up her back row. Very clever, Mai. A replay occurs and Mai attacks and destroys one of the sheep tokens. Since the Harpy tokens aren't allowed to attack the turn they are summoned, Mai ends her turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Double Magical Armbind. Joey summons his Swordsman of Landstar into defense. He then sets Double Magical Armbind and Vow of Tribe face down. Joey ends his turn. By the way, if you didn't notice, Joey missed the spell and trap zone when he tried to set his cards, and this is what his point of view looks like at this point in the duel. It's back to Mai, and she draws a mysterious spell card. This mysterious spell card will never be used throughout this duel. It's ultimately going to get discarded to pay a cost. I don't know what it is, but I assume it was useless. Mai immediately enters her battle phase and attacks Swordsman of Landstar. In response, Joey plays his set Double Magical Armbind. Due to its effect, he contributes 2 of his monsters to take control of 2 of the opponent's monsters. The caveat is that those monsters cannot attack or change their battle positions. He tributes 2 sheep tokens to take 2 Cyber Harpies. With them under his control, their attack falls due to the seal's influence ending. To prevent all of his monsters being destroyed, Joey activates his other set trap, Vow of Tribe. This makes it so that if both players control a monster with the same name, monsters with those names can't attack this turn. Thanks to this, Mai is unable to declare any more attacks this turn, and with no more plays, she is forced to end her turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws the Warrior Returning Alive. Since Scapegoats can't be used for tributes, Joey tributes his Swordsman of Landstar and the 2 copies of Cyber Harpy to summon his Guildford the Lightning. Now, since Joey used 3 monsters for its summon, its special effect activates, which destroys all monsters on the opponent's side of the field. Mai's field is completely destroyed, and Joey attacks her directly. Joey ends his turn. It's Mai's turn, and she draws Cards of Sanctity. She activates it to let both players draw until they hold 6 cards. Mai draws 3 new cards. She gets Elegant Egotist, Harpy Lady Phoenix Formation, and Spell Reproduction. Joey draws 4 new cards. He gets Gearfried the Iron Knight, Magical Arm Shield, Kunai with Chain, and Knight of Dark Dragon. Mai activates Monster Reborn to bring back Cyber Harpy. She then activates Elegant Egotists, which is a bit weird in the anime, but it splits Cyber Harpy into 3 new monsters, the Harpy Lady Sisters. Mai follows this play by activating her Harpy Lady Phoenix Formation. Since she controls multiple Harpy Ladies, she can destroy monsters the opponent controls and deal damage. Guilford the Lightning and the 2 sheep tokens are destroyed, and Joey takes 2800 damage. Since Mai is unable to attack after the use of this effect, she ends her turn. Now, I think you all know what I'm going to say about this play. Why didn't Mai set some of those spells and traps in her hand face down before using Card of Sanctity so that she'd get more draws? She would have drew Harpy's Featherduster as her next card, and Mirror Wall as a next card, and then a Mysterious card, like, at the very least, if she had, like, 3 more draws. Let's be honest, it's quite a big misplay. Mirror Wall probably would have won her the duel, and Harpy's Featherduster is a very good card, so yeah, I'm going to call that a misplay. People just don't set cards before Card of Sanctity. I don't know why. It's Joey's turn, and he draws the Claw of Hermos. Joey activates the Warrior Returning Alive. This lets him add a warrior in his grave back to his hand. He adds back Blue Flame Swordsman. He summons it to the field. Joey activates his ritual spell, Dark Dragon Ritual, to ritual summon his Knight of Dark Dragon. To do this, he must pay 4 stars worth of tributes. He sends his Gearfried the Iron Knight to pay the costs. Joey uses Knight of Dark Dragon's effect. It tributes itself to special summon a Red Eyes Black Dragon from his deck. However, Red Eyes Black Dragon can't attack this turn. With all the pieces in place, Joey plays his Claw of Hermos. He fuses Red Eyes Black Dragon and the Claw of Hermos together to create a unique equip spell, Red Eyes Black Dragon Sword. He equips it to Blue Flame Swordsman. Thanks to Red Eyes Sword, it increases the attack of Blue Flame Swordsman by 1000. It also has the effect to increase its attack by 500 for each face-up Dragon-type monster on the field, but since there are none, there's no further boosts. Joey enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys one of Mai's Harpy Lady sisters. Joey ends his turn by setting Kunai with Chain and Magical Arm Shield face down. Wait a minute, I've just realized, why didn't Joey bring back Guilford the Lightning? Guilford the Lightning has base 2800 attack. With that equip spell, it would have had 3800 attack. He would have won the duel with this attack. Oh, Joey, it's pretty bad. I know you're probably not going for the win and you're currently dying, but pretty bad. Anyway, it's Mai's turn, and she draws Harpy's Featherduster. She uses it straight away to destroy all of Joey's spells and traps. Blue Flame Swordsman's attack returns to 1800. Mai decides to really overextend here and activate her spell Reproduction. She discards 2 spells in her hand to add 1 spell back from her grave. She discards Amazoness Spellcaster and the mysterious spell she got earlier in the duel. She adds back Harpy Lady Phoenix Formation. Mai activates it. This now destroys all monsters Joey controls and inflicts damage equal to their total attack. This would win her the duel. However, at the last second, Joey activates his Blue Flame Swordsman's second effect, which lets it, quick effect, transfer any amount of its attack points to another monster on the field permanently. And so, all of the attack of this monster is transferred to one of Mai's Harpies. Now, since it has 0 attack when it was sent to the graveyard, it doesn't deal any damage. So, Joey doesn't lose the duel. And since Mai is unable to attack due to the negative effects of Phoenix Formation, she's unable to win. But that's not all. Since Blue Flame Swordsman was destroyed, Joey's able to special summon Flame Swordsman back from his graveyard. With no more plays, Mai ends his turn. Now, I'm going to say Mai didn't actually overextend this turn. Yes, she could have attacked with her monsters instead of doing all this play. She wouldn't have won, but she would have done more damage, and she would have got rid of all of Joey's monsters, which in hindsight is the better play, but she thought she was going to win with this play. So I think it's absolutely fine. I don't think she misplayed. It's just a hindsight thing. It's just a shame she went that way. Never mind. Anyway, it's Joey's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Skull Dice. He sets it face down and ends his turn. It's Mai's turn, and the final turn of the duel. She draws and gets Mirror Wall. Mai immediately enters her battle phase and attacks Joey's Flame Swordsman with her 4100 attack Harpy Lady. In the mirror of the final turn of their last duel, Joey plays his Skull Dice. This time, Joey needs anything higher than a 3 to keep himself in the duel. However, unfortunately, he rolls a 2. And so, Harpy Lady's attack is halved, but it is still high enough to destroy Flame Swordsman. Joey, with no monsters, spells, or traps on his field, and no cards in his hand, is completely open for a direct attack. As Mai is about to order the attack, she hesitates, as Joey's feelings finally get through to her. Joey, finally having done what he sought out to do, no longer needs to remain conscious. He declares Mai the winner and collapses from exhaustion. Mai wins the duel. Mai embraces Joey in this final moment. He tells her it was a fun duel as he pushes her out of harm's way. The seal takes Joey's soul, and Mai vows vengeance against Dartz.
Just before the duel begins, Rafael gives Yugi Joey's Claw of Hermos card, a move that is, while honourable, something that will ultimately come back to bite him. Rafael goes first, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Guardian Treasure, Guardian Shield, and 4 cards that will never be seen, never be used, and will never be played. Why is that? Well, that is because he activates Guardian Treasure. Due to its effect, by discarding 5 cards, he can draw 2 new cards. He draws Backup Gardener and Guardian Force. Now, while this card remains face up on the field, Rafael will actually be able to draw 2 cards during each of his draw phases, instead of just 1. And so, Rafael ends his turn by summoning Backup Gardener into defense and setting Guardian Force face down. Now, for those that think this turn seemed a little familiar, that is because it's almost identical to his first turn in their previous duel. It's Yugi's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Queen's Knight, King's Knight, Brave Attack, 5-star Twilight, Rope of Life, and Chain Destruction. Fun fact, the sub actually shows Yugi drawing the wrong card here. As you can see, he draws Big Shield Gardener. However, this is a mistake. Ironically, the dub is actually the one to fix this. Since Yugi has no monsters with attack high enough, Yugi summons Queen's Knight into defense and ends his turn. Why didn't Yugi set his Rope of Life or Chain Destruction traps face down? Because, you know, they've got some decent abilities. Well, we can actually explain this away. Since Yugi has 5-star Twilight in his hand, he knows he can eventually get out his Kaiba brothers. One of the Kaiba brothers' effects lets him discard a trap card to reduce a monster's attack points. Yugi knows more or less all of the cards in Rafael's deck, so it could be assumed he knows that Rafael doesn't play multiples of cards, which is what Chain Destruction needs to be activated. So in the end, I can see why Yugi didn't set Chain Destruction. But what about Rope of Life? Well, in the anime, Rope of Life, you have to discard your entire hand to activate it. And since it's so early in the duel, that's quite a steep cost to pay. So he wants to save it for a little bit later. So, in my books, no misplays from Yugi here. It's a fine turn. It's Rafael's turn and he draws twice, thanks to Guardian Treasure. He draws Guardian Graal and Gravity Axe Graal. Yes, just like in their last duel, get used to it, he's going to be drawing the perfect combos of cards. The equip spell, he needs to get the monster out, and the monster. Rafael starts by activating Gravity Axe Graal, equipping it to Backup Gardener. This increases its attack by 500 and makes it so the opponent cannot change battle positions of their monsters. Now, since Gravity Axe Graal is on the field and Guardian Graal is in his hand, Rafael can special summon it straight to the field. Rafael then activates the effect of Backup Gardener to move one equipped spell to another of his monsters. He equips Gravity Axe onto Guardian Graal. Rafael enters his battle phase and destroys Queen's Knight. Rafael ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Monster Reborn. He activates it straight away to special summon Queen's Knight back from the grave. He then normal summons King's Knight, and now since King's Knight was summoned while Queen's Knight is on the field, King's Knight special summons Jack's Knight from his deck. Yugi follows this play by activating his Brave Attack. Due to its effect, he can combine the attack points of all 3 of his monsters together into one single battle. However, the monsters are destroyed at the end of the battle phase. Rafael, however, activates his counter trap Guardian Force. Since there are no Guardian monsters in his grave, he can negate the activation of a spell card and destroy it. With no more moves left, Yugi is forced to end his turn. It's Rafael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets Guardian Elmer and Butterfly Dagger Elmer. Rafael activates Butterfly Dagger Elmer, equipping it to Backup Gardener, increasing its attack by 300. And not only that, if Butterfly Dagger Elmer is destroyed and sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, it will return immediately back to the hand. Interesting fact about this card, by the way. This equipped card has been banned since 2005. And the reason why that is because it can create an infinite loop. Why is that a problem? Well, due to this, you can perform some very naughty plays, like infinitely drawing with Royal Magical Library, resulting in, say, a guaranteed Exodia. Or with Magical Marionette, you can get infinite attack points for an instant OTK. Or with Fire Princess and Spell Absorption, you can cause infinite burn damage. Rafael isn't going to do any of these plays today, but I just thought I'd mention it because it's interesting. Since Guardian Dagger Elmer is on the field, Rafael is allowed to normal summon his Guardian Elmer. He does so and uses Guardian Elmer's effect to equip one spell in his grave to itself. He chooses Guardian Shield, which, keep in mind, was discarded to the grave during the first turn of the duel. With Guardian Shield equipped, it increases the defense of Elmer by 300, and now it has the effect that if a Guardian monster would be destroyed by battle, this card can be destroyed instead. Raphael uses the effect of Backup Gardener to equip Butterfly Dagger Elmer to Elmer instead. He enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Queen's Knight and King's Knight, dealing the first damage of the duel. Raphael ends his turn. But hold on just a second. Why didn't Raphael destroy Jack's Knight? Jack's Knight is the only monster that is strong enough to get over his Elmer. Did he just want to do more damage? Well, that seems a bit out of character for Raphael. So why didn't he do this? Sadly, there's only one logical explanation for this. The plot made him do this. You see, Yugi needs a 5-star monster on his field next turn so that he can activate his 5-star Twilight spell. So that means, sadly, Raphael, you have made a huge misplay. I know it's not your fault, the plot made you do this, but had you destroyed Jack's Knight, then the next play that Yugi's gonna do would not be available to him, and most likely this would have been a domino effect. Yugi would never be able to get back into the duel. Honestly, I think he would have won the duel. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Mystical Space Typhoon. Yugi starts by activating 5-star Twilight, tributing Jack's Knight to special summon the 5 Kuribo brothers. Kuribo, Kuriba, Kuribi, Kuribe, and Kuribu. Yugi activates the effect of Kuribu. By discarding one trap from his hand, he can reduce the attack of one monster on the field by 1500. He discards Chain Destruction and targets Guardian Graal. Yugi then uses Kuriba's effect to send one each of his Kuribo brothers to the grave, to special summon Kuribabylon. Kuribabylon's attack then becomes equal to each Kuribo in his grave. Finally, Yugi plays Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy Gravity Axe Graal, reducing Graal's attack even further. Yugi enters his battle phase and attacks Graal, but Raphael uses his Guardian Shield's effect, equipped to Elmer, to prevent Graal from being destroyed by battle. Guardian Shield is sent to the grave, however Raphael still takes the damage. Yugi sets Rope of Life face down and ends his turn. As he does, Graal's attack returns to normal. It's Raphael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets the Seal of Orichalcos and Guardian Formation. Despite Yugi's objections, Raphael plays the Seal of Orichalcos. From now on, all of Raphael's monsters will receive 500 attack boosts. Also, Raphael's monsters can be summoned into the spell and trap zones too. Monsters summoned there cannot be attacked unless there are no monsters in the main monster zone. Oh, and of course, the loser of this duel will now lose their soul. Raphael enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Kuribabylon. However, Yugi activates his Rope of Life to re-summon Kuribabylon back to the field with an extra 800 attack. However, to do this play, he has to discard his entire hand. However, since his hand was empty, he doesn't discard. In the real world, you can't do this. If something says you have to discard your hand to activate a card effect, most likely you need to have cards in your hand. However, this is the anime. It's fine. It's cool. Raphael sets Guardian Formation face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Dark Magic Curtain. He activates Kuribabylon's effect to remove it from play, to then special summon the 5 Kuribo brothers back from the banish zone. He activates Kuribe's effect to banish all 5 again, so they can special summon Kuribandits. By paying half of his life points, Yugi then activates his Dark Magic Curtain to special summon Dark Magician from his deck. Yugi enters his battle phase and uses Dark Magician to attack Guardian Elmer. However, Raphael activates his Guardian Formation to negate the attack and move Guardian Elmer into the back row. The second effect of Guardian Formation then activates, letting Raphael activate one equipped spell from his deck. He chooses Celestial Sword Iatos. He equips it to Backup Gardener, increasing its attack by 300. With no further moves, Yugi ends his turn. It's Raphael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets Guardian Iatos and Kishido's Spirit. Since Celestial Sword Iatos is on the field and there are no monsters in Raphael's graveyard, Raphael is able to special summon his ace monster, Guardian Iatos. Raphael activates Backup Gardener's effect to equip Celestial Sword Iatos onto it instead. Yugi, knowing full well what Raphael's next play is going to be, he activates the effect of Kuribandit. By tributing itself, he can draw 5 cards, but he must discard any monsters he draws. The cards he gets are Magical Hats, Magical Pigeon, Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts, Gamma the Magnet Warrior, and Electromagnetic Turtle. He sends the Gazelle, Gamma, and Turtle to the grave. Rafael activates the effect of Iatos. By sending Celestial Sword Iatos to the grave, he can banish monsters from the top of Yugi's graveyard in order until he gets to a non-monster card. For every card banished, this card gains attack equal to those monsters' attacks. That is, however, unless they have 0 attack points, as monsters with 0 attack points are not banished through this effect. Why am I making a big deal of that? Well, let's reveal it, shall we? Gazelle, Gamma, and Curry Bandit are banished before being cut off by Dark Magic Curtain. Iatos' attack increases to 7,000. Rafael enters his battle phase and attempts to go for game by attacking Dark Magician. However, Yugi reveals the effect of his Electromagnetic Turtle in his graveyard. By banishing it, he can end the battle phase. Iato's attack is returned to normal. Rafael, with his OTK ruined, and with no more plays left, ends his turn. Okay, I really want to quickly just address the turtle in the room. I'm not sure how Yugi knew Iatos didn't banish monsters with 0 attack, but let's just say, since Yugi has seen this card before, he knows for a fact that Iatos does not banish 0 attack monsters. It's a shame they didn't set this up in like the last duel, like there was a 0 attack monster in his graveyard. I don't think he has any others like that. But like, that would have been cool, foreshadowing to like this event now. Then that would mean it could be said that Yugi actually sided out his original Catapult Turtle and sided in the Electromagnetic Turtle before this duel on purpose, since Catapult Turtle was ultimately the catalyst for why he lost the last duel, whereas Electromagnetic Turtle is kind of a hard counter to Iatos. Fair play to Yugi for this tactical play. It was very lucky that he happened to discard it, of course, but that's just Yu-Gi-Oh, isn't it? It's fine. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Big Shield Gardener. He summons it in defense, switches Dark Magician to defense, sets Magical Hats face down, and ends his turn. It's back to Rafael, and he draws twice. He gets Rod of Silence Kaiest and Guardian Kaiest. Rafael enters his battle phase and attacks Dark Magician. However, Yugi plays Magical Hats to create 4 hats, hiding his 2 monsters inside. Rafael attacks one of the hats, but it was the hat containing Big Shield Gardener. Rafael then attacks it again with Guardian Elmer. This time he destroys one of the empty hats. Finally, with a 50-50 chance of attacking Dark Magician, Rafael attacks with Guardian Grawl. However, it's a miss. Rafael enters his main phase 2 and activates Rod of Silence Kaiest, equipping it to backup Gardener, increasing its defense by 500. Now, with this card on the field, Rafael can summon his Guardian Kaiest. Kaiest is unaffected by spell effects and cannot be targeted for attacks. Could Rafael have summoned this monster during the main phase 1 in attack, use that to attack one of the hats, maybe destroy one of the empty ones if he's lucky, and then that means he would have been able to destroy the Dark Magician, which ultimately would have really helped him out before the next turn happens? Yes, he could have done that. Why didn't he do that? I guess he didn't know that Magical Hats was going to be face down. He thought he had game. We'll let it slide, actually. In fact, no, yeah, misplay. He could have summoned it in attack anyway. There was no, like, detriment for him not doing it. Oh well. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Graceful Charity. He activates it and draws 3 cards. He gets the Eye of Timaeus and 2 cards that are never seen or played. Since he must discard 2 cards, he discards those 2 mysterious cards. He activates it straight away, which allows it to fuse with any one of his monsters. He merges it with Dark Magician, turning it into Amulet Dragon. Due to Amulet Dragon's effect, Yugi can banish every spell card in his grave to increase the attack of Amulet Dragon by 300 for each. Amulet Dragon then attacks and destroys Guardian Iatos. This marks the first time a Guardian monster has gone to the grave, and as such invokes Rafael to reveal his darkness. Due to Iatos being destroyed, Rafael can special summon Guardian Dreadscythe straight from his deck to the field. When Guardian Dreadscythe is summoned to the field, its effect activates, allowing itself to equip Reaper Scythe, the Dreadscythe, from his deck. Due to Reaper Scythe's effect, Guardian Dreadscythe gains 500 attack for each monster in Raphael's grave. Finally, it's worth noting that the cost to keep Dreadscythe on the field is that Raphael can no longer summon new monsters to the field while this is on the field. Yugi ends his turn. It's Raphael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets Purity of the Cemetery and My Body as a shield. Raphael switches Guardian Dreadscythe to attack and activates its 3rd effect, which lets it destroy all other monsters he controls. With all of them in the grave, Dreadscythe's attack increases even further. Rafael then attacks and destroys Amulet Dragon. Rafael ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Card of Sanctity. He activates it to allow both players to draw until they both hold 6 cards. Rafael draws 3 new cards and gets Obedience, Spell of Pain, and Dimension Distortion. Yugi draws 5 new cards and gets Watapon, Dark Magician Girl, Reduction Barrier, Zero Gravity, and 2 mysterious cards that are never played and never seen. Since Yugi drew Watapon via a card effect, it is special summoned straight to the field. Yugi tributes Watapon to summon Dark Magician Girl. Yugi sets Magical Pigeon face down and ends his turn. Speaking of setting Magical Pigeon face down, why didn't Yugi set Magical Pigeon face down before he activated Card of Sanctity? He would have drawn an extra card. His ultimate end play was setting this card face down, so he didn't deviate from his plan at all. The next card he would have drew would have been Underworld Circle. So, yeah, misplay Yugi. This could have possibly cost you the duel not doing this, so bad play. It's Raphael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets Orichalcos Sword of Sealing and Spirit Hunting. Raphael activates Obedience. Now, when Guardian Dreadscythe attacks a defense position monster, Raphael can change the target to attack. And so, Raphael attacks Dark Magician Girl. Is changed to attack, however Yugi plays Magical Pigeon. This returns Dark Magician Girl back to the hand and replaces it with 2 pigeon tokens in defense. Guardian Dreadscythe's attack whiffs, since his target was removed from the field. Unable to attack again, Raphael moves into his main phase 2 and sets Orichalcos Sword of Sealing and Spirit Hunting face down. As Raphael ends his turn, the last effect of Magical Pigeon activates, destroying the remaining pigeon token and resummoning Dark Magician Girl back to the field. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Underworld Circle. He activates it. Now, due to its effect, all monsters on the field are destroyed, and all monsters in both players' decks are banished. This sounds like a broken card. We're not done yet. Now, once per turn, each player can special summon 1 monster from their graveyard, ignoring summoning conditions. When a monster summoned by this effect is destroyed, they are removed from play instead of being sent to the graveyard. We get some out-of-duel character development here. Raphael and Yugi are transported to Raphael's past. He starts digging up the bones of his deceased family and stuff. It's all pretty dark things, but they both come out with a better understanding of each other after this event anyway. When they return, the last effect of Guardian Dreadscythe activates, which forces Raphael to discard a card in his hand to prevent its destruction by battle and card effects. And so, it is not destroyed by Underworld Circle. The card he discards is My Body as a Shield. The effect of Underworld Circle then kicks in, allowing both players to summon a monster from their grave. Yugi summons Dark Magician, while Raphael is unable to summon due to Dreadscythe's maintenance costs. Yugi sets Zero Gravity face down and ends his turn. It's Raphael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets 2 mysterious cards, which will never be seen and never be played. Regardless, Underworld Circle's effect kicks in again. Yugi summons Jack's Knight. Raphael again is unable to summon. Raphael enters his battle phase and attacks Dark Magician, but Yugi activates his face-down Zero Gravity to switch all face-up monsters on the field into defense. However, Raphael activates his face-down Spirit Hunting, which switches Guardian Dreadscythe to attack. It then destroys all defense position monsters Yugi controls. They are destroyed and subsequently banished due to Underworld Circle's effect. Raphael ends his turn. Yugi draws Altar of Restoration. Yugi uses the effect of Underworld Circle to special summon Dark Magician Girl. He activates Altar of Restoration to remove the top 2 cards of his deck from play, to add 1 card in his grave back to his hand. He adds the Eye of Timaeus. Yugi uses its effect again, but this time fusing with Dark Magician Girl to make Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight. He attacks Guardian Dreadscythe. Yugi activates its effect. Now, by discarding 1 card in his hand, he can destroy Guardian Dreadscythe at the start of the damage step without applying any damage calculation. However, Guardian Dreadscythe isn't destroyed, since Raphael can simply discard a card to prevent its destruction. Raphael discards Purity of the Cemetery. Yugi sets his Reduction Barrier face down and ends his turn. It's Raphael's turn, and he draws twice. He gets Something and Monster Reborn. Yugi uses the effect of Underworld Circle to special summon Queen's Knight from his grave. Raphael activates his set Orichalcos Sword of Sealing. Now, by discarding 1 card he drew this turn, he can equip this card to one of Yugi's monsters to negate its effects. He discards Monster Reborn and equips his spell onto Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, to negate all of its effects. Rafael drew 2 cards here, one of which he's never going to play for the rest of the duel, but it's a shame he didn't discard that one instead of Monster Reborn. I know he can't summon new monsters, but you never know how a duel's going to go. Holding on to Monster Reborn might be really advantageous later on in the duel. Obviously, by discarding this card, it's going to cost him the duel, but I'm just saying, symbolically, I get why he threw away Monster Reborn. He's chucking all his monsters in the graveyard now. He doesn't need to get them back. Character-wise, it makes sense. Duel-wise, it was a bit of a misplay. Guardian Dread Scythe then attacks and destroys Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. However, before the damage is dealt, Yugi plays Reduction Barrier. This reduces the damage by 90%. Since Rafael was about to do 2,900 damage, 10% of this is only 290, which leaves Yami Yugi with 10 life points left. Rafael ends his turn. I just want to quickly mention this. Yes, Yugi did leave his Queen's Knight in attack position, which at first I thought was a really silly move. Well, if Rafael would have just attacked that Queen's Knight that he left in attack, wouldn't he win the duel since Yugi only has 500 life points left? Well, it turns out that if he would have done that, 5,500 take away 1,500 is 4,000 damage. Damage reduction would have made it go down to 400 damage. So Yugi would have still survived the attack. So, no misplay here. It's Yugi's turn and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Pot of Greed. He uses the effect of Underworld Circle to special summon Big Shield Gardener. He then activates Pot of Greed to draw 2 new cards. He gets Spider Web and the Claw of Hermos. Yugi activates the Spider Web, which lets him add 1 card the opponent sent to the graveyard last turn to his hand. He adds Monster Reborn. Yugi then activates it to bring back Guardian Yatos. This decreases Guardian Dread Scythe's attack by 500. Yugi then activates the Claw of Hermos' effect to fuse itself with Queen's Knight to form an equip spell. He makes Goddess Bow. Yugi equips Goddess Bow to Guardian Yatos. This card doubles its attack. Yugi attacks. Goddess Bow's final effect then kicks in. You see, when the monster equipped with this card battles, if an opponent activates an effect of a monster, then this monster is not destroyed in that battle and can instead attack again in a row. Yes, that is a very Taylor-specific effect to have. Perfect for this situation, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Since Dread Scythe forces Rafael to discard when it is about to be destroyed, Yatos is able to attack 6 times in a row. This completely depletes Rafael's hand. On Yugi's final attack, both of them are destroyed. Not to be that guy, but I'm pretty sure that when Yatos is destroyed, even though it's on Yugi's side of the field, in the real world, I think that would summon Dread Scythe back to Rafael's field. But checking on the anime effect of the card, it does state when a Guardian Yatos you controlled is destroyed, you can special summon a Dread Scythe from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So no shenanigans there, but if it was in the real world, unlucky Yugi. Oh, and another thing as well. It's a shame that Yugi didn't bring back his King's Knight, which is like the few remaining cards in his graveyard. Instead, he brought back Big Shield Gardener into defense. But if he'd have brought back his King's Knight into attack, he could have attacked for game right now. So, misplayed Yugi. You could have won this duel right here. Anyway, Yugi ends his turn. It's Rafael's turn and the final turn of the duel. He draws twice and gets Soul Charge and a mysterious card. Rafael, wanting to fix the mistakes he has made in this duel, uses the effect of Underworld Circle to bring back his Guardian Grawl from the grave. He then activates Soul Charge. This allows him to special summon as many monsters as he wants from the grave at the cost of 500 life points for each. Rafael pays the 1,500 life point cost for doing so. Yugi wins the duel. Rafael's soul is about to be taken. However, since he conquered the darkness in his own heart and found peace, the seal does not take his soul, and so the duel ends. The duel begins and Kaiba goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Force Raider, Paladin of White Dragon, 2 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon Ritual, and Reflect Energy. He starts by activating the ritual spell, White Dragon Ritual. He sends his level 4 Force Raider to the grave to pay the cost in order to summon Paladin of White Dragon. He then uses Paladin's effect to send itself to the grave in order to special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon from his deck straight to the field. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Blackluster Soldier, Valkyrion the Magna Warrior, Blackluster Ritual, Big Shield Gardener, Meteor Rain, and a mysterious monster that we won't see throughout the entire duel. What could this card be? It's hard to say. Let's just assume it's useless. Insert useless Yu-Gi-Oh card here that you think it might be. whatever you fancy. Yugi starts by activating Blackluster Ritual, sending his Valkyrion the Magna Warrior to the grave in order to pay the cost to ritual summon his Blackluster Soldier. Yugi sets his Meteor Rain trap face down and ends his turn. It's Dartz' turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Orichalcos Gygus, Orichalcos Cutora, the Seal of Orichalcos, Orichalcos Deuteros, Orichalcos Mirror, and Orichalcos Mirror Summoner. Dartz immediately activates the Seal of Orichalcos. Now all monsters Dartz summons will gain 500 attack. His spell and trap zones can be used to summon monsters too, and also, of course, whoever loses this duel will now lose his soul. Dartz summons Orichalcos Gygus in defense, whose effect is, and get ready for this, if Gygus is destroyed, it is immediately special summoned back to the field. Every time this happens, it gains 500 additional attack. However, it cannot attack for the rest of that turn, and Dartz must skip his next draw phase. Dartz isn't done though. He pays 500 life points to special summon Orichalcos Cutora in defense in his spell and trap zone, meaning that it can't be attacked until Dartz' front row monsters are destroyed. This is unbeknownst to Yugi and Kaiba, but Cutora's effect is, while it is face up on the field, all battle damage Dartz takes from battles involving monsters he controls becomes 0. If Cutora is destroyed, Dartz can special summon Orichalcos Shuneros from his hand or deck. With this near unbreakable defense, Dartz ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Polymerization. He activates it to fuse the 2 Blue Eyes in his hand with the 1 on the field to summon Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. With this play, Kaiba believes he has set Yugi up for victory, and so ends his turn here. However, what if I told you Kaiba had all of the pieces to victory right there and then? You see, Kaiba holds a card in his hand called Reflect Energy. By attributing 1 monster, he can make all of his monsters able to attack directly this turn. We will learn throughout this duel that teammates' cards, monsters, and things like that, they can be used by the teammate to pay for costs, activate effects, fuse, things like that. So, with that in mind, Kaiba could have attributed Yugi's Blackluster Soldier here, so that his Ultimate Dragon could have attacked Dartz directly for game. Since Dartz' Cutora can only absorb the damage of battling monsters and not direct attack, that means Kaiba would have won the duel. But hang on, some of you might be saying, fusion summon monsters, they can't attack the turn they are summoned. Now that would be true, except we're not in Battle City. We're in Waking the Dragons, and fusion summon monsters can attack the turn they're summoned. However, despite the fact that Kaiba could have won this turn, I'm going to defend him here by saying that the plot, no matter what, wouldn't have let him do this play, as Dartz has a card in his hand that he should have activated on the first turn, but didn't. And if he would have activated it on the first turn, then Kaiba wouldn't have been able to do this play. And that card is Orichalcos Deuteros. Why didn't Dartz use Orichalcos Deuteros on his first turn? Personally, I just think it's for the plot, so that it's a more epic reveal later on the duel, because he's going to use it on his next turn. It's going to amplify the power of the field spell, so that's why it wasn't played straight away. The only reason we know it's in the hand is because we've reverse engineered the duel. We shouldn't really know that. Kaiba misplayed, Dartz misplayed, so both players misplayed, so it evens it out. Okay? Okay, it's Yugi's turn, and he draws Polymerization. He activates it and fuses Blackluster Soldier with Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon to make Master of Dragon Soldier. Yugi activates Meteor Rain. This grants all of his monsters the ability to inflict piercing battle damage. Thinking he has game, Master of Dragon Soldier attacks and destroys Dartz' Orichalcos Gygus, but due to Orichalcos Cutora's effect, Dartz negates all the battle damage. Dartz then activates Gygus' effect to special summon itself back to the field with 500 more attack. Yugi ends his turn. It's back to Dartz. However, since he used Gygus' effect, he's unable to draw this turn. Dartz activates his new field spell, Orichalcos Deuteros. This card essentially upgrades the Seal of Orichalcos with a second seal, granting it 2 new effects. Now, once per turn during his main phase 1, he can gain 500 life points for each monster he controls. Also, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, he can tribute one monster to destroy the attacking monster. With 2 monsters, Dartz uses the Seal's effect to gain 1000 life points. Dartz enters his battle phase and uses Gygus to attack Master of Dragon Soldier. Gygus is destroyed as it's weaker, however Dartz absorbs the damage with Kutora's effect and revives Gygus with his own. Dartz ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Blade Knight. Realizing it's pointless for him to attack, Kaiba sets his Reflect Energy face down and summons Blade Knight in order to set Yugi up for a direct attack. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn and he draws Defusion. Kaiba immediately activates Reflect Energy, tributing his Blade Knight to allow Master of Dragon Soldier to attack directly. However, as Yugi does this, Dartz activates the second effect of Orichalcos Deuteros. He tributes Gygus to destroy the attacking monster. However, before it is destroyed, Yugi plays Defusion to bounce Dragon Soldier back to his extra deck and resummon Blackluster Soldier and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon to both his and Kaiba's fields. Yugi ends his turn. Oh, wait a minute. Yugi's just brought back 2 very powerful monsters with Defusion. He's still in his battle phase. The battle phase hasn't ended. If he were to summon those both to his side of the field, attack with Blackluster Soldier targeting Kutora, because keep in mind there's no more defenses. Dartz could use the effect of his Deuteros, the field spell, to send his Kutora to the graveyard in order to destroy Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. He will need to do that because if Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon attacks directly, that will be game. And if he does that, that will mean that Kutora can't be destroyed because it's being tributed, which will also mean he can't summon out his Shunaros later in the duel. Meaning, Yugi and Kaiba probably would have won in the next couple of turns. It's back to Dartz, and since Orichalcos Gygus was tributed and not destroyed, it was unable to come back to the field. This means that Dartz is allowed to draw this turn. He gets Time Eater. Dartz activates his ritual spell, Orichalcos Mirror. He sends his Time Eater to the grave to pay the cost to ritual summon Mirror Knight Calling. This monster is summoned into the back row. When Mirror Knight Calling is ritual summoned, it special summons 4 Mirror Knight tokens to his field. Mirror Knight Calling then gives each token a shield counter. When a Mirror Knight token with a shield counter battles, its attack becomes equal to the attack of the monster it battles. If a Mirror Knight token with a shield counter would be destroyed, you can remove the shield counter instead. Finally, once per turn, Dartz can place 1 shield counter on every Mirror Knight token he controls while he controls Mirror Knight Calling. Dartz activates his field spell's effect to gain 500 life points for each monster he controls. With 6 monsters, he gains 3000 life points. Dartz enters his battle phase. The first Mirror Knight token attacks Kaiba's Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. With equal attack, Blue Eyes is destroyed and the shield counter is removed from the token. The second Mirror Knight then attacks Blackluster Soldier. Yet again, Blackluster Soldier is destroyed and the Mirror Knight loses its shield counter. The third Mirror Knight then attacks Kaiba directly, while the fourth one attacks Yugi. Dartz then moves into his main phase 2. Activating Mirror Knight Calling's effect to replace shield counters on monsters that are missing them. Dartz ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Card of the Mai's. He activates it to draw until he has 5 cards in his hand. However, after 5 turns, Kaiba must discard his entire hand. Don't worry though, Kaiba won't last this long. He will never have to discard his entire hand. Since Kaiba's hand is empty, he draws 5 new cards. He gets Silent Doom, Kaiser Glider, Cost Down, Ring of Destruction, and Attack Guidance Barrier. Kaiba activates Silent Doom, special summoning Blade Knight from his grave in defense. He then tributes it to summon Kaiser Glider. Due to this card's effect, it can't be destroyed in battle by a monster with the same attack as it. Kaiba sets his Ring of Destruction face down and ends his turn. You could have also set his Guidance Barrier face down. That would have been quite helpful as well. And I guess he could have also attacked into one of the Mirror Knight tokens now if he wanted to as well, but it's not a huge deal, but something he could have done. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Mirror Force. He sets it face down, summons Big Shield Gardener into defense, and then ends his turn. It's Dartz's turn, and he draws Twin Bow Centaur. Dartz activates his field spell's effect. With 6 monsters, he gains another 3000 life points. Following this, Kaiba activates Ring of Destruction. He chooses to destroy Dartz's Mirror Knight Calling, as to prevent its protection effect. both players take 500 damage. Since it is effect damage, Kyutora is unable to absorb it. Now, it could be said that destroying Kyutora here might have been the priority over the Mirror Knight calling. I think this is a personal preference thing. I don't think there's a right answer here. The immediate threat is the Mirror Knight monsters, as they're destroying all their monsters with those things. So I don't think Kaiba's wrong in not destroying Kyutora. Destroying Kyutora would have been amazing. I don't think it's a misplay. I think Kaiba made the right choice here, I guess. Regardless, it is revealed that the Mirror Knights are in fact Yugi, Joey, Mai, and Pegasus. Dartz attempts to attack Big Shield Gardener with the Mirror Knight Yugi. However, it refuses to attack. Dartz, intrigued by its resistance, wishes to test the willpower of his knights further. And so, Dartz sets his Twin Bow Centaur face down and ends his turn. Hypothetically, if these tokens didn't have some sort of free will to a degree, if he would have attacked into Big Shield Gardener, it would have switched to attack into the next attack. Then all three of the Mirror Knights could have attacked into Yugi. Keep in mind that Yugi does have Mirror Force face down, which could have destroyed all of the shields on all of these monsters, and fully destroyed one of them. However, Yugi's going to prove to be unwilling to do this, so most likely, you could have got some more damage into this, but the Mirror Knight refused to attack. Who am I to disagree with the Mirror Knight? It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Pot of Greed. Kaiba activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets Different Dimension Dragon, and a mysterious card that will never be shown and will not be played because it's about to be discarded. If we had to put a name on it, let's just say it was Lejin, the Mystical Genie of the Lamp. Kaiba activates Cost Down. He discards Lejin to reduce the levels of all the monsters in his hand by 2. And so, Kaiba summons Different Dimension Dragon without a tribute. Different Dimension Dragon's effect makes it unable to be destroyed in battle by monsters with 1900 attack or less. This means the tokens can't destroy it. And so, believing the Mirror Knights are nothing more than a ploy to force them to hold back, Kaiba attacks. He targets the Mai token. Thanks to Kaiser Glider's effect, the shield token is the only one that will be destroyed. However, now with no token to protect itself, Kaiba attacks again, attempting to destroy her. However, Mirror Knight Joey intercepts the attack, and its shield token is destroyed. Kaiba sets attack guidance face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Relay Soul. Unwilling to harm his irreplaceable friends, apparently Pegasus counts in that. I don't know about that one, Chief, but sure, okay. Yugi immediately ends his turn. It's Dartz' turn, and he draws Martyr's Curse. He activates his field spell's effect to gain 2500 life points. He then activates his Twin Bow Centaur. Now, during his main phase 1, he can select 1 monster he controls and 1 monster his opponent controls, and then one of them at random will be banished. Damage is then dealt to the owner equal to the attack of the monster banished. However, when Dartz does this, he can't attack that turn. Dartz chooses Mirror Knight Joey and Kaiba's Kaiser Glider. The monster chosen at random is Kaiser Glider, and so it is banished, and Kaiba takes 2400 damage. Dartz ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Wish of Final Effort. Kaiba uses Different Dimension Dragon to attack Mirror Knight Joey, attempting to destroy it permanently. However, Mirror Knight Yugi intercepts the attack. It loses its shield token. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Mystical Space Typhoon. He activates it to destroy Dartz' Twin Bow Centaur. Still not wanting to go on the offensive, Yugi ends his turn. It's back to Dartz, and he draws Orichalcos Malevolence. He summons it into his main monster zone. He then activates Orichalcos Deuteros' effect to gain 3000 life points. Malevolence attacks Kaiba's Different Dimension Dragon. However, Kaiba uses his attack guidance barrier to redirect the attack to Yugi's Big Shield Gardener. This play also increases Gardener's defense by 600. Due to this, the attack fails. However, Kyutora absorbs the damage. Since Big Shield Gardener was attacked, its effect switches itself into attack. Attack Guidance Barrier forces Dartz to end his battle phase. It's back to Kaiba, and he draws Shrink. Kaiba, now on the back foot, switches Different Dimension Dragon into defense. He sets Shrink and Wish of Final Effort face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Ambush Shield. Yet again, unable to attack his friends, Yugi switches Big Shield Gardener back into defense and sets Ambush Shield face down, and yet again ends his turn.
Some out-of-duel stuff happens here. Rafael appears, gets super mad at Dartz, reawakens his own darkness, and then gets sucked into the seal. Anyway, let's just get back to the duel. It's back to Dartz, and he draws his final field spell, Orichalcos Tritos. He activates it. The seal is now upgraded to its third form. Along with all of the previous effects, it can now also, once per turn, when an opponent activates a spell or trap effect that targets a monster Dartz controls, he can negate the activation, and if he does, he can destroy that card. Dartz activates the seal's effect again to increase his life points by 3,000. Dartz then uses his Malevolence's effect to switch Different Dimension Dragon back to attack position. Malevolence attacks Different Dimension Dragon. Kaiba plays Shrink in order to survive the battle. However, this is where Dartz reveals his field spell's effect and negates Kaiba's Shrink. Luckily, Yugi activates his own Amber Shield, tributing Big Shield Gardener in order to increase Different Dimension Dragon's attack by its defense. Different Dimension Dragon survives, however Dartz doesn't take any damage due to Kyutora. As well, Yugi's field is now wide open. All 4 Mirror Knight tokens attack him directly. Note again that Yugi still has Mirror Force face down, but he just refuses to use it. Dartz sets Martyr's Curse face down and ends his turn. As he does, Different Dimension Dragon's attack returns to normal. It's Kaiba's turn, and his final turn of the duel. He draws and gets the Fang of Critias. He activates it, fusing his Critias with Yugi's set Mirror Force. When merged together, they make Mirror Force Dragon. Kaiba attacks, targeting Mirror Knight Pegasus, whom is the only one who still has a mirror counter. Mirror Knight Pegasus' attack increases, matching Mirror Force Dragon's. However, due to this, Mirror Force Dragon's effect then activates. You see, if this monster battles a monster whose attack is equal to or greater than this card's attack, then Dartz will take battle damage equal to the total difference in attack between this card and each of Dartz's monsters with lower attack than this card. Then, all monsters the opponent controls are destroyed. Sadly, since Kyutora is still on the field, Dartz doesn't take any battle damage. However, Mirror Force Dragon still destroys every single monster that Dartz controls. And it is revealed it was fine to destroy the tokens. They weren't sent to some nether realm or anything. They didn't have their souls permanently removed from the world or anything like that. So it was just an empty bluff. Kaiba was right since the beginning. Well done, Kaiba. Sadly though, Dartz reveals his ace in the hole. Since Kyutora was destroyed, its final effect kicks in, which summons Orichalcos Shunaros from his deck straight to the field. And this is where things get really spicy. Shunaros' attack is equal to the total amount of damage Kyutora absorbed throughout the duel. Since it absorbed 19,500 damage, and it also gains 500 attack from the Seal of Orichalcos, its attack becomes 20,000. Following this, Shunaros' second effect kicks in, which allows it to summon Orichalcos Aristeros and Orichalcos Dexia from his deck to the field. Alright, let's cover all 3 of these monsters because they've got some effects. Here we go. Shunaros has the effect that if it attacks another monster, it loses attack equal to that monster's attack or defense points, depending on its position. If this card is destroyed while its attack is 0, Dartz can pay 10,000 life points and discard his entire hand to special summon a Divine Serpent Gear from his deck. Orichalcos Aristeros and Dexia act as a sword and shield, and have almost identical effects. Both cannot be destroyed while Shunaros is on the field. Aristeros forces monsters that attack to attack it, and when that happens, it gains defense equal to the opponent's monster's attack plus 300. Dexia does the same thing, however it does it when it's on the offensive. When it attacks, it gains the opponent's monster's attack or defense plus 300. However, when either of these use those effects, Shunaros loses attack equal to the amount they gained from that battle. And so, with Shunaros summoned in the back row, and with 2 near unkillable monsters, it seems all is lost in this duel, especially when Dartz activates his set Martyr Curse to force Mirror Force Dragon to attack again, targeting Shunaros. Due to the last effect of Martyr Curse, Mirror Force Dragon has its effects negated, and so it is destroyed, and Kaiba is eliminated from the duel. However, just before the seal takes Kaiba's soul, possibly an illegal move, but we'll allow it,
Kaiba activates Wish of Final Effort, which increases Yugi's life points by the attack of the destroyed Mirror Force Dragon. Since the battle is over, Shunero's attack decreases by the attack of the monster it battled with. Kaiba's soul is taken. It's back to a lone Yugi. No longer held back by the fear of hurting his friends, he draws Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 cards. He gets Obnoxious Celtic Guardian and Soul Shield. He summons Obnoxious Celtic Guardian into defense. He sets Soul Shield face down and ends his turn. It's Dartz' turn, and he draws something. It's never revealed. He activates the Seal's effect to gain 1500 life points. Dartz orders Dexia to attack Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. It gains 300 extra attack than it, however Yugi plays Soul Shield. By paying half his life points, he can prevent his monster from being destroyed in battle. It will also negate the damage he would take and immediately end the battle phase. As the battle phase ends, Shunero's attack is reduced by Dexia's attack increase in that battle. Dartz ends his turn. It's back to Yugi, and he wavers a little bit, thinking he has no chance in the duel, but ultimately, through the power of friendship, he believes again and draws Legend of Heart. He activates it by paying 1000 life points and tributing a warrior-type monster on his field. He also banishes the Eye of Timaeus, the Fang of Critias, and Claw of Hermos from his hand, deck, and graveyard in order to summon the dragon's true forms, Legendary Knight Timaeus, Legendary Knight Hermos, and Legendary Knight Critias. After these 3 monsters are summoned, Legend of Heart's final effect then activates, which sends the Seal of Orichalcos on the field to the graveyard, ignoring its protections. All of Dartz' monsters lose 500 attack. All of their protections have also gone away. Yugi uses all 3 of his knights to attack Aristeros. All 3 of the attacks fail, and Yugi receives damage for each one. However, Shunero's attack is significantly reduced by each of the attacks. Yugi ends his turn. It's Dartz' turn, and he draws something again. Dartz uses Orichalcos Shuneros to attack Legendary Knight Critias, attempting to go for game. However, Yugi activates Critias' effect, which lets him banish and absorb the effect of 1 trap in his hand or grave. He chooses to absorb Mirror Force. Note that when Critias absorbs a trap effect, just like the dragon versions, they're a little bit changed. They're slightly different to what they normally do, but they're fundamentally still the same sort of effect. With Critias having absorbed Mirror Force, he redirects the attack. Shuneros, Dexia, and Aristeros are destroyed, and Dartz receives damage equal to their attacks. However, since Shuneros was destroyed while it had 0 attack, Dartz is able to use its final effect. By paying 10,000 life points and discarding his entire hand, he can summon his Divine Serpent Geth, which has infinite attack and defense. When it is summoned, Dartz' life points automatically hit 0. However, this is fine, as now Divine Serpent's effect makes it so that Dartz cannot lose the duel unless Geth is removed from the field. Very, very oddly, Dartz does not declare an attack here, and instead ends his turn. Why not attack now? It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Dark Magician Girl. He sets Relay Soul face down and ends his turn. It's Dartz' turn and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Impact Revive. He enters his battle phase. In order to attack with the Divine Serpent, he must send the top 10 cards of his deck to the grave. He does this, and this time attacks Timaeus. It is destroyed, and Yugi's life points hit 0. Yugi has lost the duel, is what I would have said. But Yugi plays Relay Soul. With this card, it special summons Dark Magician Girl from his hand to the field. Now, as long as Dark Magician Girl remains in play, Yugi can't lose the duel unless Dark Magician Girl is removed from the field. When that happens, he automatically loses. So now, both duelists have 0 life points, but they both have a monster that are tethering them to the duel. Dartz moves into his main phase 2 and activates Impact Revive, which lets him special summon a monster destroyed this turn with 500 extra attack back to its owner's field, and this will allow him to have a second battle phase. Now, since it's a new battle phase, Divine Serpent is allowed to attack again. He sends 10 cards from the top of his deck to the grave and attempts to attack and destroy Dark Magician Girl. However, Yugi activates the effect of Legendary Knight Hermos, redirecting the attack to himself instead. Yugi then uses Hermos' second effect by banishing a monster in his grave to gain its effects. He banishes Obnoxious Celtic Guardian to make it so that Hermos cannot be destroyed in battle by monsters with 1900 or more attack. Since life points no longer matter, Yugi survives the battle. Ultimately, it's going to turn out that bringing Timaeus back to Yugi's field, pretty big misplay. It's Yugi's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Attack Guidance Barrier. First, Yugi attacks with Critias. However, he activates its effect, which lets it absorb the effect of one trap in his hand or grave. He chooses Attack Guidance Barrier. With its effect absorbed, its new amplified effect becomes that he lets his monster choose one other monster on the field to attack. He chooses to attack Hermos. Since Hermos has been attacked, Yugi activates its final effect by removing from play 3 monsters in his deck: Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Beta the Magnet Warrior, and Gamma the Magnet Warrior. For the rest of this turn, whenever Hermos is attacked, its attack will be tripled. And then it will attack the monsters that attacked it. However, since Critias redirects any attack back at Hermos, and Hermos redirects any attack back at Critias, an infinite loop occurs. And since the monster's attacks are getting tripled each time this happens, this slowly adds up to infinite attack. But there's a problem. These 2 monsters, they're attacking each other. That's no good. They need to attack the Divine Serpent. Well, that's where Timaeus comes in. Yugi brings the play home by activating Timaeus' effects, which allows it to merge with 1 or more monsters he controls. He merges Timaeus with Critias and Hermos to become the Knight of Destiny. Due to its effect, it gains attack equal to the combined attack of the absorbed monsters, making its attack also infinite. Yugi attacks with his infinite attack monster, attacking Dartz' infinite attack monster. Both are destroyed. However, the final effect of Knight of Timaeus summons the 3 knights back to the field when it is destroyed. However, this doesn't matter, as since the Divine Serpent has left the field, Dartz loses the duel.